Okay. Good morning. It's 10 o'clock, so we're going to get started. Welcome to Wildlife Conservation Board meeting on May 28th, 2026. Have to wait for recording, is that what we said? Are we recording?
Are we in the booth recording? So I'll make sure. Just give me a thumb.
Yes, we're
Okay.
recording.
Thank you.
Great. All right, let's start with roll call, shall we?
Chair Nagami,
Here.
Vice Chair Thomas,
Here?
Member Gear,
Here?
Member Taramini,
Here.
Member Pavle,
Here.
Member Peralt, Member Scalar. We have a quorum.
Great, thank you. Thank you to everyone who's here. Thanks to the board members. We got a great lineup today, a great agenda. Let's move to the next item. Let's take a look at the agenda, and if we have approval, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move that we approve the agenda.
Second. All right, thanks. Do we need roll for that or? Okay. The agenda is approved. Excellent. All right, let's move on to the executive director's report.
Thank you, Chair Nagami. Good morning, everyone. Jennifer Norris, Executive Director. I don't have a lot of updates. This is a very busy time of year for all of us in state government. As you may know, it is both legislative bill time and budget time. So we've been very busy with a lot of those pieces. Just a couple of things to flag for you. The governor's May revision was issued on May 14th. We're continuing to wait for our allocation of Proposition 4 funding going forward. If you look, we're going to look at our financing report a little bit later, but that'll be the main funding we have available for projects moving forward. So we're spending last year's, waiting on this year. There was one project flagged by the governor for priority, which was the acquisition of Golden Gate Fields in the East Bay. So currently in the budget, it's recommended that the Wildlife Conservation Board, 25 million from our Prop 4 go to that project. Just wanted you to be aware of that. We're fielding requests about that now. We also requested authority to move 7 accounting positions that are currently housed at the Department of Fish and Wildlife over under us. We pay their salaries, but we would save overhead if they came into our org chart. So we think that's a good thing, and that hopefully will get approved. The budget will be finalized on June 30th, although it is entirely possible that the Prop 4 piece might delay through the summer. So that's just the state of things. We've also been very busy because we did get authority to do some additional hiring as a result of Prop 4. So first I want to welcome Anna Takeda, who's our new right-of-way agent back there. We hired her just a few weeks ago. She's going to be awesome. We poached her from DWR. We're in the, sorry, DWR. We're in the process, not sorry at all. We're in the process of a couple of other hires, but another big announcement I have as part of I'm sure you've all seen this, our legal work continues to get more and more complicated, working with tribal law, water law. We have a lot of projects in a lot of different jurisdictions. And so we requested the ability to hire a general counsel at the executive level. And I'm pleased to report that Colin Mills has been selected. So he's our new general counsel. So congratulations, Colin. We're very excited. Yeah. And then I have one other announcement. Next slide, please. And that's that Mary Ahern is retiring. So Mary is kind of the hub around which everything in our office revolves. She is the whip cracker to get us from one board meeting to the next, which is really all of our work revolves around this. Within 3 days of our board meeting, she's gathering everyone to put together the schedule for the next board meeting. No resting allowed. And then she continues to make sure all the documents come in on time and that we get these incredible packages together for you all. And if anything is ever late, it is not her fault. It's somebody else's fault because she has been trying very hard to get things on time. So we want to recognize Mary. We got these stats, which is kind of amazing, 985 projects that she's pulled together. That's the CEQA findings, the photographs, all the stuff that goes in your packet. It's kind of incredible. And before I let others speak, I just want to give something to Mary. which I got. I told you I didn't, I lied. So we have a tradition at WCB where we have these kind of cute little crocheted fruits and vegetables that give us a little bit of power. So I got one for Mary. That's actually a little flower pot. And it says, "There are people in this world who make things better wherever they go. Thank you for being one of them." So.
So I know Mary loves attention, so we're going to drag this out a little bit longer. Thank you so much, Mary, for everything you've done. Meetings like this don't just happen on their own, and making sure folks have what they need. All of us as board members having the information that we need in a very clear way. Having our needs catered to. I mean, you've made everything so easy and great for us, Mary. We're going to miss you. And yeah, I'd love to, anyone else who wants to make a comment, please do.
Mary, I haven't been around for just about a year, but I really do appreciate everything that you do. And you do make the trains run on time and very smoothly. And it's the fact that there's not, a big kerfuffle at every meeting. We know it's because of you, because you do so much. So thank you for your service to the state of California, and I wish you happy trails.
Yes, I have to say something too. Mary is patient and responsive. And I don't think you just work 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, I've noticed. I can get responses back quickly, all the time. And whatever the question is, she'll look it up and find an answer or facilitate, "Oh, have you thought about flying this way or doing that or making life easier?" And so I had mixed feelings. I want you to have a very happy retirement, but we've been spoiled. And I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, Mary, I'm just back on the commission, on the board, but I've been here maybe 4 or 5 times over the last 11 years. And, the Fish and Game Commission, being on there all this time, I see what a circus it can be to put together meetings like this. And I just am astounded all the time how smoothly it is here. And it's because of your coordination and making sure that everything comes together. And so we don't ever see any of that kind of backroom stuff that's so hard to accomplish. And it's really extraordinary. And your service to California has been incredible. And we're very grateful for that. Thank you.
So I'd just like to say thank you too, although I've only been here a year as well. I really appreciate that you always have been so responsive whenever there's a question. And as a former state employee who's also retired, welcome to the other side.
And I'll just note from the department, both for Chuck and now Megan, like just getting stuff on time is a Herculean effort. So thank you for keeping them on track and just to have a great time in retirement. Congratulations.
I'm going to ask just at least the staff to give Mary a little standing ovation. Can we just do that? Anybody else that wants to join, but I'm requiring staff. She hasn't cried yet. Let's keep clapping. I'm kidding. Thank you, Mary. I'm going to miss you a lot. You have no idea. She doesn't just do this. She keeps me on time, which that's a whole thing. So anyway, thank you, Mary. All right, now we can get down to business.
All right, thank you. Next, we'll move to board member updates and reports. Any board members have anything to report or make an update? All right, seeing none, we will.
I just
Go for it.
One, right now, the plan is for the opening of the wildlife crossing to be on December 2nd for wildlife. It's a wildlife crossing, and that's down in the Los Angeles area at Liberty Canyon. The bridge over the 10-lane freeway is completed, and wait till you see if you ever get a chance to get on top of it, but not only the soil makeup to match the chemical composition of the surrounding areas, but all the plants on it have been put together by a local nursery of volunteers. They're all planted with native plants and things using some drip recycled water. But we're now on to the last stage. That's over a local arterial road called Agora Road. It's not that easy. They're building a tunnel that's 16 feet high, and it'll go over some oak trees and into the open space, not only on the south side of the freeway and in Malibu Creek State Park, but the north side of the freeway. So essentially from Pacific Coast Highway down in Malibu to the 118 freeway past Simi Valley, it is all open space. So it's happening. It's not, but without the support of the Wildlife Conservation Board, this dream wouldn't become a reality. So December 2nd is the tentative date. There will be a small ribbon cutting kind of thing, but there'll be a big celebration nearby if you happen to be in the area. Jen, I'd let you
You've
know.
stolen my thunder a little bit. We've actually, so I think, we're endeavoring to have at least one WCB meeting out of Sacramento, and we have reserved King Gillette Ranch for our November meeting with the hope that we can get y'all to see the crossing during our meeting. And
We'll have to get you on top.
That's
because
the
that's
hope. I'm not
special.
going to promise, but my hope is
I
I
know.
got to go up there and it was amazing. So we are going to go as a board with your approval, of course. But it's proposed that we go in November. So.
Awesome. That sounds great. Looking forward to that. Thank you. All right. Any other board member updates? All right. Not seeing any. Let's move on to item number 5, funding status.
This is just informational. If you have any questions on it, I'm happy to answer. What you're seeing are cost recoveries and availability of funds no, I'm sorry. I'm looking at the wrong thing. Funding status, just the different pots of money that are available. So as I alluded to earlier, we're kind of down to the last bits on most of our funds. Those are usually very specialized and have particular requirements. So our big flexible money is really coming through Prop 4 at this point. So if you have any questions on that, I'm happy to answer.
Any questions, board? Okay, seeing none. Looks like we are at consent. So items 6 through 18 are on the consent calendar. Do I have a motion?
We'll move 6 through 18.
Second.
Great. Okay, let's take roll, please. Oh, public comment. Sorry. Yes. Is there any public comment on items 6 through 18, either in the room or online? If you're online, please raise your hand.
There's one raised hand. Oh, 2, sorry. Oh God, 3. Okay. Emily Zefferman, you should be able to unmute yourself.
Hello, I am the program manager for the Salinas River Arundel Eradication Program. And I wanted to express my gratitude to WCB for considering this award for the 6th phase of our program. The Salinas River runs through a valley dominated by intensively farmed row crops. The riparian zone has some of the only wildlife habitat left in the valley, and it's home to many at-risk species, including American badger, western pond turtle, coast horn lizard, monarch butterfly, and numerous bird species. And it's also a critical corridor for wildlife connectivity. In the past 12 years since the Arundel Eradication Program began, we have seen significant benefits in areas where Arundel has been removed. Where there was once impenetrable monocultures of Arundel, we're seeing diverse plant species return and documenting increased wildlife movement. This phase of work in our overall program is particularly important because it closes some critical gaps we've had in treatment coverage within our overall program footprint, which now spans 51 river miles. To date, we've implemented an upstream to downstream approach with the exception of 3 areas where we had previously not had landowner permission to control Arundel. But through years of outreach and relationship building, we now have permission to treat this remaining Arundel, and this protects the previous investments of WCB and other funders of this program for work downstream. We will also be actively restoring treatment sites with pollinator and wildlife beneficial plant species. So we look forward to implementing this phase of work, and we thank WCB for the support.
Thank you so much. Who's next?
Paul Robin, you should be able to mute yourself.
Great, thank you very much. I'm Paul Robbins. I'm the Executive Director for the Resource Conservation of District of Monterey County, and I just wanted to follow on Emily's comments. We've been very grateful for your partnership. We're sorry we're not able to attend the meeting, but back in the early 2010s when Brian Carey and Peter Perrine were initially scheming with us, the restoration of this very underappreciated river in a valley that a lot of people don't think about. We really had no idea, or I should say we had an appreciation what 20 years of work would take. And here we are 12 years into it. At the same time, would not have been possible without considerable investment by you all in the vision that the Wildlife Conservation Board brings. We've been able to leverage and get federal support and local support to the tune of about $4.5 million cumulative to match the WCB's input. And just wanted to express the appreciation, and we'll look forward to giving you more information as we go forward in the next 8 to 10 years, bringing this work all the way to the river mouth. And thank you for your continued partnership and making this possible. Thanks.
Thank you. Right, and one more?
Yes, Anna Rubio, you should be able to unmute yourself.
Hi, can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Hi, my name is Anna Rubio, and I'm a restoration specialist for the Hoopa Valley Tribal Fisheries. And I, as well, just wanted to express a lot of gratitude for y'all taking time to consider our project for the Chagdud-Gompa restoration design. This is the first step in a larger project of helping restore the upper 40 miles of the Trinity River, which are mandated by the Department of Interior's Record of Decision made in 2000. Taking part in this design would allow us to really continue to restore these upper 40 miles and focus in on coho salmon, which are endangered in our area, as well as Chinook salmon, steelhead, and various other riparian species that require these habitats to continue to live on. And so we're super excited. And this project, again, it's been working in conjunction with a lot of related projects that we've completed in the past few years to restore habitat, to increase floodplain connectivity, and to reintroduce habitat for all these endangered species. So this, again, just is a really crucial part of our work and allows the tribe to continue its working on its land, working on a river that has provided various resources to the tribe for time immemorial. So again, we're just super thankful and excited to be here, and sorry we couldn't be there in person, but thank you all again.
Thank you. Thank you for all the comments. Really appreciate it. We don't get to present these consent items. They're all wonderful projects. I was so excited about them. I just forgot about public comment. So really pleased to have folks speaking out on these. There are no questions from the board. Would love to, maybe Eric, if you want to make your motion.
I'll move, was it 8 through 16? 8 through 18, I'm sorry.
6 through 18. Yep.
There we go. There we go. I can look up there and see.
Member Gear,
Yes.
Member Termini,
Yes.
Member Nagami,
Yes.
Member Pavle,
Yes.
Member Scalar,
Yes.
Member Thomas.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right. Congratulations, everyone. Wonderful projects.
Okay, I want to invite Kim Cruz to come up to talk about Skyline North Phase 2. We did get a late letter of support for this project that was signed by 10 organizations. So if you'll give me a second, I'm just going to read those for you. Dan Silva, Endangered Habitats League, Peter Anderson, Sierra Club, San Diego Chapter, David Hogan, the Chaparral Lands Conservancy, Muriel L. Spooner, San Diego Bird Alliance, Laura Hunter, Escondido Neighbors United, Wallace Tucker Center for Conservation Strategies, Ann Van Leer, the Escondido Creek Conservancy, Van Collinsworth Preserve Wild Santee, Rick Halsey from the California Chaparral Institute, Sandra Farrell, Friends of Hediondo Creek, and there were no letters of opposition.
Great, thank you. Good morning, everyone. The Skyline North Phase 2 project before you today is for a grant request of $5,900,000 for the Endangered Habitats Conservancy, known as EHC, to acquire 23 parcels totaling over 1,200 acres in the southeastern part of San Diego County. This property is a key linkage that will strengthen the habitat and wildlife connectivity of nearby conserved lands, including the Cleveland National Forest, Bureau of Land Management Land, CDFW's Sequan Peak Ecological Reserve, and EHC's Skyline North Phase 1 property. This land is also within the draft East County planning area of San Diego County's Multiple Species Conservation Program. The property features a variety of habitat types with high ecological value, including chaparral, coastal sage scrub, oak riparian, and wetland, with a pond and an active creek that runs through the property. A small portion of the property, about 50 acres, operated as a ranch in the past. This ranch area has a house, cottage, and barn structures alongside areas of fallow agricultural and grazing land. The Skyline property is a refuge for critical species, 2 of which have been found on site. The western spadefoot, which is federally proposed as threatened, and a spadefoot tadpole is shown in that upper left photo, and the Hermes copper butterfly, shown in the upper right, is federally listed as threatened. The property has significant areas where the Hermes host and nectar plants of spiny redberry and California buckwheat already grow. EHC will expand these native plant communities as part of their restoration of the fallow agricultural lands. The property also lies within the critical habitat of the endangered Kino checkerspot butterfly. Partnering with the U.S. Geological Survey, EHC will restore the pond to enhance occupied spadefoot habitat and to be a translocation site for the federally threatened California red-legged frog and the southwestern pond turtle. The Endangered Habitats Conservancy will own and manage the property in perpetuity. EHC's team will work to ensure that this habitat-rich landscape will be protected from trespass, such as unauthorized use by off-road vehicles. While public access will be limited due to the sensitive habitats and species on site, EHC will partner with the Earth Discovery Institute to engage youth in nature through a summer day camp program to begin next year. The camp will be based at the ranch area. EHC will also make the housing and facilities available at no cost for scientific research, education, and habitat restoration purposes. EHC's management plan will be refined once they take ownership. They are committed to restoring the fallow agricultural land and the pond to improve and expand the at-risk habitats of threatened species. And in addition to protecting the existing natural landscape, EHC has an extensive network of local conservation partners and resources to maximize the habitat restoration opportunities on the property. In closing, staff recommends approval of the project as proposed. Joining us online are Chris Manzik, Conservation Manager for EHC, and Ida Collar-Vincent, the Executive Director of the Earth Discovery Institute. And here with me in person is Michael Beck, President of the Endangered Habitats Conservancy, who would like to first address the board, and then we will be available for questions afterward. Thank you. Michael?
Thanks.
Good morning, Chairman Nagami, board members, Dr. Norris, and all your staff who we work with and have for many years. Kim, I was going to list the attributes. She hit most of them, so I'll just elaborate on a couple of them or expand on a couple of them. One is the NCCP state program and in San Diego called the Multiple Species Conservation Program. And if you look on the maps, it's kind of hard to just register it quickly, but these years of purchase of these acquisitions have really created this landscape level connection, both north-south and east-west. So to the east of this property, abutting the property is the Cleveland National Forest, and then Sequan Peak and other properties in the South County that you've been involved with for over the years. So I wanted to kind of let you understand how strategically important this property is. Kim listed some species I'll touch on a little bit, but this is a landscape level conservation strategy, you know, many years in the works. So we've got golden eagles, mountain lions, and then many target species of the MSCP. And the 4 species that we're going to focus on this property, these are all real active recovery efforts. So Hermes copper butterfly, enhancement of the habitat. Southwestern pond turtle is part of this regional effort that USGS is leading. We're going to restore this pond, which is a 3-acre pond on this pretty ephemeral stream system. So it's pretty large for this neck of the woods, and we're going to start from scratch and then translocate red-legged frog from genetically appropriate eggs from Baja California. And they've been, red-legged's been extirpated in San Diego for over 50 years. There's been one successful translocation. This will be the second one. And then spadefoot as well. A little elaboration on the house. There's this great old Spanish style 2-story house in a casita. And we have the funding to do what I consider minimal, but serious enhancements to it, structurally very sound. It's going to be good. And we hope to make this available for researchers in the fall. We work the group, when I say we, I mean the San Diego conservation community and wildlife agencies and so on. We've got researchers and postdocs from UCSD, SDSU, Natural History Museum, San Diego Zoo, Regional Management Monitoring Program, and rentals in San Diego are insane, like they are most places, but really bad in San Diego. So this is 5 free rental units go along with this project, not insignificant. The public use thing, I know that that's an issue for the board, and I understand and appreciate it. There's no public trails that abut this property. There is a trail that is pretty rustic that is on a portion of it. Of course, we're not going to change anything there. But as Kim mentioned, we are going to partner very actively with the Earth Discovery Institute on Environmental Education. And these species recovery projects are going to be available to kind of engage students and researchers and other people on this. And then finally, I know matching funds is also an issue for you. And when we first were putting this project together, the county was going to provide matching funds and then got completely kneecapped by all the federal cuts and just had to bail. And so we understand, first of all, how you view these things and appreciate the support of the Conservation Board. And then in closing, Kim's been great. She's a real pro. And you should be proud of her, of the way she engages on these projects into the nuts and bolts of it. And Dr. Norris, John, and other staff people have visited the property. So we're very appreciative of that. And answer any questions if you have any. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Appreciate it. Board members, any questions? Yeah.
I don't know if this is for Kim or for Jen, but I know that there's not currently a management plan in place. Is that right? So who ultimately approves that management plan, and just maybe run me through that process quickly?
I do want to add, EHC does have a draft management plan.
Okay.
They've submitted that and we've reviewed it. So once they take control of the property, they'll be refining some of the items in there.
So you'll just refine or adopt that plan, once they
Right.
take control.
And it'll be one component of their overarching skyline area. This is
Mhm.
phase 2, so they have a phase 1 property.
Yeah.
They're looking at a phase 3, so it's one component of that overarching
Got it.
plan as well.
That's helpful. Thank you.
Sure.
Great, good question. Thanks.
Is it EHC, who will also manage the property and the housing and all of that on there?
Yes.
Okay, and they have a long-term monitoring, like there's funding for all of that?
They do have a budget for that. Yes, they have a long-term plan. Michael, did you want to speak more about that?
A little bit, yeah. We have the funding set aside to do all of the, we've gotten bids and everything to do some minor, well, it's not minor roof repair. We're going to replace the roof, but it's not like there's that much damage. So roof repair, painting, and flooring. The floors are great hardwood floors, and we have that money set aside. So we intend to make it available for folks to move in the fall. And we're already talking to different people, USGS in particular, the staff people.
If I could just jump in, all of our acquisitions have a requirement for a management plan and for long-term management of the site in perpetuity. And the last presentation on our board agenda is actually on our monitoring program and how that fits into these acquisitions. So great questions, but we do keep track and make sure that the investments we've made are actually leading to the habitats that we were intending it for. So that's an agreement that's in perpetuity.
Thank you.
Thank you. Great preview. I saw that on the agenda. I'm excited. All right, any other questions? All right, let's move on to public comment. If there are any folks in the room that would like to comment, please come on, make your way up, line up, and online, if you could raise your hand so that we could get you in the queue, that'd be great. All right, see no folks in the room. Do we have anyone online who wants to speak on this item?
Ida Keller, you should be able to unmute yourself.
Yes.
Geneva, can you
hi.
tell us how many raised hands you have, just so we can prepare?
Yes, that's the only raised.
Okay,
hand.
thank you.
Yeah, hi, my name is Ida Kolle Vincent, and I'm the Executive Director at Earth Discovery Institute, and I would just like to express my support for this acquisition. Earth Discovery Institute is a nonprofit that works on environmental education, conservation, and habitat restoration in San Diego County, and we work closely with students from Title I schools and in underserved communities to provide meaningful outdoor education experience and opportunities to connect with nature. We already collaborate really closely with the Endangered Habitats Conservancy, which very generously provides access to conserved lands where we conduct our school field trips, educational programming, volunteer stewardship activities, and habitat restoration projects. And this acquisition would create exciting new opportunities for collaboration between our organizations, including the opportunity to host summer camps and expanded educational programming at the property. These programs would allow children to learn about the environment, conservation, science, and art while gaining direct hands-on experience in nature. So thank you for considering this important acquisition and for supporting conservation and environmental education opportunities for their communities. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, that will close public comment. Any further discussion at the board level? If not, we can entertain a motion. Thank you for this project. It's seems great. And thank you, Michael, for the additional explanation of how it sort of fits in with the MSCP and the plans in San Diego. Really interesting.
I'm just really impressed by the fact that you're integrating research and scientific research into this project. I think that's really fantastic. And then also educating children as part of this program. I think it's just a great opportunity for the County of San Diego and beyond. So I'm prepared to move the item.
I'll second.
Member Gear,
Yes.
Member Termini,
Aye.
Member Nagami,
Aye.
Member Pavle,
Aye.
Member Scalar,
Yes. Sorry.
Member Thomas.
Aye.
The motion passes.
Great, thank you.
Congratulations. Okay, I'm going to invite Haley Peckner to come up and talk about increasing pollinator habitat in Fresno County. We love the butterflies. All the things. But we like to look at the butterfly pictures.
All right, good morning. So this is a proposal to consider an allocation to the Sierra Resource Conservation District. Yeah. To establish pollinator and riparian woodland habitat on 5 sites throughout Fresno County. The establishment of this habitat will provide habitat connectivity for pollinators across the county and support other wildlife. Oh, too far. Okay. Rapid urbanization and intensive agricultural practices has significantly reduced the San Joaquin Valley's historic native grassland, Valley Oak savanna, riparian woodlands, and shrublands. And as a result, there's a lack of quality habitat for pollinators and other wildlife. As we discussed a bit at our last board meeting, California's native pollinator populations are now declining at an alarming rate, with approximately 25% of the state's native bee species now at risk of extinction. This decline threatens biodiversity as 80% of flowering plants require pollination services, and in agricultural regions like Fresno County, they're essential to crop production. Additionally, decades of fire suppression in Fresno County has contributed to the overaccumulation of dead, downed, and overly dense vegetation. This buildup not only increases wildfire risk, but degrades habitat quality by limiting native plant diversity and ecological function, therefore underscoring the need for strategic fuel reduction alongside habitat restoration. So out of the 5 sites that we're going to discuss today, there are 3 different site types, which include county parks, school sites, and then 1 private farm site. At each of these sites, the Sierra Resource Conservation District will be doing invasive treatment before restoration occurs, and then strategic fuel reduction as necessary. Invasive treatment will primarily include mowing, disking on agricultural sites, and then at China Creek Park, which is one of the county park sites, cultural burns will be implemented as well. Now to go into detail on the county park sites a little bit more. This will include Lost Lake Park and then the previously mentioned China Creek Park. At both of these sites, both pollinator and riparian woodland habitat restoration will occur, focusing on establishing pollinator habitat along the trail system and planting a demonstration garden in a visible area so that educational signage can be posted for both pollinators and then the cultural resources that exist within these parks. Hedgerows will also be installed surrounding these sites to provide habitat and act as a vegetative buffer. Additionally, oak caging will be installed on existing saplings to support oak regeneration. All right, now to discuss the 2 school sites. This will include California State University Fresno and Sierra High School. To date, the campus farm at CSU Fresno has not implemented many conservation practices, especially when it comes to creating habitat for pollinators and other beneficial insects. So this project will change that by establishing hedgerows and habitat plantings on 2 of the campus farm sites. And then at Sierra High School, they'll be converting grass lawns into native pollinator gardens to expand habitat and showcase the importance of planting the native species. They'll also be restoring habitat along a 25-acre nature trail that will be used by students as an outdoor classroom. Both of these sites will be engaging students in restoration and be providing opportunities for workforce development. Then the final site is a private farm property that's currently bare, as you can see in the photo. The project will fund the installation of hedgerows along the farm boundaries, and then the plantings of native pollinator habitat strips throughout the site. These habitat plantings will be integrated between rows of almond trees that the farmer plans to establish. And then bird boxes will also be installed on the site to encourage birds to provide natural pest control. These enhancements will help reduce dust drift while providing valuable habitat for pollinators and other wildlife. And the farm will serve as a demonstration site for other farmers, showcasing sustainable agriculture practices that integrate pollinator and wildlife habitat on working land. Across all 5 sites, over 26,000 linear feet of native riparian and pollinator hedgerow habitat will be installed, in addition to restoring 100 acres of pollinator and riparian woodland habitat. Alongside the habitat restoration work, the Sierra Resource Conservation District will organize workshops at the project sites to share information on native habitat, restoration, sustainable management practices, and traditional ecological knowledge. The project aims to create a more resilient landscape for pollinators and other wildlife throughout Fresno County while building community capacity through education and outreach. By engaging farmers, tribal youth, and local community members, the project will provide the knowledge and tools needed to expand and sustain this work beyond the life of the project. Staff recommends that the Wildlife Conservation Board approve the project as proposed. Joining us in person to provide a few quick remarks and then answer any questions is Liren Carney, Agriculture and Rangeland Program Assistant at the Sierra Resource Conservation District. Thank you.
This is Kelly too.
And one more person. Yeah, got an extra person. Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
All right. Would you like to go first, Kelly?
Sure, thank you, Liren. I just want to quickly introduce myself. I'm the district manager for the Sierra RCD, and our Ag and Rangeland team put this project together. Liren's put a lot of work into it. We're very proud of it. There's not a lot of groups in Fresno County doing this kind of work. We recently signed an MOU with the county parks, so it's been a big deal for us. We started working on some of the parks, bringing a lot of services to them. They don't have a huge staff. They have like 2 crew people, 1 small crew. We already have a bigger crew than them. They're very happy to have the partnership, and this is some of the capacity we plan to bring to Fresno County, serving over 1 million residents. So I'm going to let Liren talk more about the specifics because her and the team she's on really put this together. So thank you.
Thanks, Kelly. Hi, everyone. Thanks for allowing me to speak a little bit about the work that we're doing. I'm a project manager at the Sierra Resource Conservation District Ag and Range team. Something I would like to point out about our work that may not be apparent are the strategic choices in project sites and our relationships with partners. We have chosen to work with a high school in the foothills that channels youth into career pathways such as forestry, a university that is at the forefront of leading the direction of agricultural practices in our region and throughout the world, 2 county parks that run along both of our major river systems in Fresno, the San Joaquin and the Kings River, and on the farm of one of our most excited farmers who champions sustainable practices in ag within a farmer-to-farmer network that favors collaboration over competition. He wants to tell the whole world how amazing it is to have native habitat and pollinators in a farming system. So schools, universities, farmers, county land and officials, conservancies and nonprofits, local tribes and TK practitioners, and the youth, of course. I hope this paints a picture of the coalition of partners we are gathering and the infrastructure we will continue to build out that will simultaneously build capacity in our region for expanding on this restoration work with a TEK trained workforce to support while we build our pollinator populations back up. Something that is mirrored back to me when speaking with partners is the trust between us all and the shared vision we hold together with excitement, passion, and commitment. And we're all looking forward to increasing native habitat and pollinators in our region. And with this funding, we can really build that out and replicate this work throughout. So thank you for your time. Here if you have any questions.
Thank you so much. Board members, any questions?
Question.
Yes.
Just out of curiosity, on the private farmer project, is that purely voluntary on his part or is he compensated?
Go ahead. Well, I guess he is compensated because we are able to work with Xerces as well as some of this funding. So he's putting in his farming system of almonds. We're helping to facilitate implementing rows of habitat. He was really excited with some of the work that we did on his other farm, that now he wants to expand instead of just in the margins, he wants it incorporated throughout his entire operation. I hope that answers.
Yeah, and I just have a quick question. So it's great. I'm really glad you brought together a big coalition to work on this. And I'm just kind of curious like how the CSU is playing into that. Are they, because it sounds like it's great opportunity for master students or other staff, you know, getting training.
Can you come up to the mic so everyone can hear you? Thank you.
With a lot of the student clubs, as well as some teachers and other advocates that are running like the ag department. So there was excitement over a hedgerow that we've already implemented, and we're talking about programming that could hopefully follow if we get enough people interested and excited, even like the plant sciences to go ahead and start monitoring and using it as a space to practice that and study.
Thank you. Any other questions? I had a quick question. Thank you for the information on site selection. I was actually going to ask about that. I think this is a terrific project. I think we need more of them. I saw here that there are some regional plans on sort of butterfly conservation, agriculture. Do those sort of lay out where are the best areas for potential projects, and then you sort of have to find something? Or is it more opportunistic, like wherever you think you have partners, but it's like the whole region, wherever you can find it is good?
So it may start out that way, but the partnerships that we are building is giving us access for future building. We're all on the same page and we want to do more of this and think in terms of corridors. With the county and the conservancies, there's a lot of property that is all along both river systems. And we're hoping to move forward on some plans. But if we do good work in the projects that we already have, then we can mimic that work. Whatever works, we could take. Whatever doesn't work, we can leave. And we could take it property by property.
Wonderful, thank you. Okay, let's move on to public comment. If there is anyone in the room that would wish to comment, please make your way down, and online, if you could raise your hand, and we'll put you in the queue. Not seeing anyone in the room. Do we have any hands raised in the online queue?
There are no raised hands.
Okay, well, we will close public comment. Any last comments from the board?
Yeah, I'd like to make a comment.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, this is a terrific project. It's restoring pollinator habitat, and restoring pollinators is such a critical thing. And it really meshes really well with work going on at the Fish and Game Commission, where we're working on our first petitions to protect some bumblebees. That is only possible because the Supreme Court said that CISA does include protection of insects. So this really meshes well with the new effort there, and I want to see more of this. Thank you. With that, I'm happy to make a motion.
Love that.
To approve.
Any other comments? Okay, go for it.
I move to approve.
Second.
Member Gear,
Aye.
Member Termini,
Aye.
Member Nagami,
Aye.
Member Pavle,
Aye.
Member Scalar,
Aye.
Member Thomas. Motion passes.
Congratulations.
Awesome. All right. Okay, Erin Aquino Carhart is going to talk about the River Vista Bridge Removal and River Restoration Project. We did get a very late breaking letter of support from the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. I also just want to let you know that the work where this project is going to happen is one of the sites that the governor identified as part of his Parks Forward park expansion, and it may go to state parks sometime soon. Please.
And we're very excited. So good morning, everyone. So this is a proposal for the San Joaquin River Conservancy, or SJRC, for the River Vista Bridge Removal and River Restoration Project. The request is about $4.4 million, and this takes place in Madera County, just downstream of Militron Lake and the Friant Dam. As Dr. Norris has mentioned, this is currently SJRC's property, but could change hands soon. Fingers crossed. And so this is also near the town of Friant. So I'm going to tell you all a story, because this is going to help. So the bridge in question was the Pulaski Bridge. It's also known as the North Fork Bridge. This was built in 1906, and it was one of the first concrete arch bridges in California. Yes, very cool. And it connects both Fresno and Madera counties over the San Joaquin River. But unfortunately, even after the Friant Dam was constructed, it wasn't fully operational when a big flood happened in 1951 and the bridge was destroyed and collapsed. The locals quickly created a new bridge the following year. But however, only the Fresno County side of the river removed the bridge remnants from the area. And there are still 6 large concrete structures that remain on the Madera side of the river. So today, this is the Pulaski Bridge. Yes. So I want to emphasize this. This is just below the Friant Dam, excuse me. And so it is a barrier to salmon habitat. And one very particular run, the Central Valley Spring Run Chinook salmon, which is both federally and state endangered or threatened, excuse me. So currently with the structures that are within the stream, the flows cause undermining. And so you have erosion going on underneath the structures, which then changes the in-channel topography and erodes the important structures for a salmon spawning, so salmon redds. And as you also see, those that are on land, and even, I guess, when the flows aren't very quick, it's an attractive nuisance as well. There's a lot of graffiti, vandalism, trespassing, and a potential safety hazard. Those that do like to kayak or canoe can't really launch from the site across from this property at Friant Cove. So it's also an impediment to recreation. Oh, excuse me. Okay. So as I mentioned, the Chinook salmon are threatened. And for the San Joaquin River, they were extirpated. And this has happened over 65 years ago. And with that, this primarily resulted from water use and damming of the river, which caused the San Joaquin to run dry. And as we all know, without water, you cannot have fish. And in 1999, the San Joaquin River Restoration Program was created. And so this was an interagency group between federal and state agencies to plan out how to restore water flows and restore the salmon to the river, and particularly have recommendations for spring run Chinook. And so I did want to also highlight that removing the bridge remnants is a recommended action by this program, and the letter of support that we've received from NOAA NMFS and DWR emphasize this as well. And removing this barrier would again prevent the further undermining and removal of spawning and rearing habitat for these salmon. So the project will restore this habitat. It is I guess not necessarily low-hanging fruit, but it is a critical first step into furthering the restoration of this reach of the river and providing the means for Chinook salmon that are being reintroduced to continue to populate and multiply. Along with removing the remnants, there is some engineering designs that need to be completed. They will update their CEQA document and obtain their remaining permitting, and there will be revegetation of the upland habitat as well. And, excuse me, they will make sure that they also address erosion control and sediment loss whilst removing these pieces, and also be sure to work within windows that are not during spawning season, and any other requirements per their permits. And with that, staff recommends that the board approve this project as proposed. And online, we have Carrie Daneska, the Executive Officer of the San Joaquin River Conservancy, to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. All right, do we have any questions at the board level? All right, no questions. Let's go to public comment then. If there are folks in the room who wish to comment on this item, please make your way to the front. And online, please raise your hand and we will put you in the queue. Do we have any hands online?
There are no raised hands.
Okay, all right, we're going to bring it back up to the board. Any last comments, thoughts? Seems like a great, I did have a question. You said this is a first step. What are the steps after this? Like after you take out the bridge remnants, revegetate the site, what are the next steps?
Well, as I said, in channel, there is an issue with the topography because that will affect flows. And so you would have to then essentially smooth it out, add more substrate so that you have the elevation, that's the word, the elevation that you'd need to provide the flows and the conditions appropriate for the salmon. I am no expert. I just read a bunch in preparation.
Makes sense. Okay, great. Anyone want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion. Move approval.
All right, I'll second.
I'll second the motion.
Member Garrett,
Aye.
Member Taramini,
Aye.
Member Nagami,
Aye.
Member Pavle,
Aye.
Member Scalar,
Aye.
Member Thomas.
Aye.
The motion passes.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm very pleased to invite Michael Shaw up to discuss the Park Ranch acquisition.
Good morning, everyone. So the Park Ranch project is a fee acquisition proposed by Western Rivers Conservancy in partnership with the County of Alpine for the purchase of 1,688 acres of important wildlife habitat, which also provides the scenic backdrop to the town of Markleeville, which is located in Alpine County. The project will protect biodiversity, buffer climate impacts, and improve wildfire resilience and expand public access. The property adjoins Alpine County land, BLM land managed by the Carson Field Office, and Humboldt-Toyab National Forest land. The property is 7 miles southeast of Hope Valley Wildlife Area and 9 miles northwest of Heenan Lake Wildlife Area, both owned by CDFW. Western Rivers Conservancy negotiated an agreement to purchase the ranch from the landowners with the intent to transfer the ranch in its entirety to the Alpine County for long-term stewardship and public access. Sorry, I'm gonna figure this clicker out. There we go. The project protects a large interconnected landscape in the Eastern Sierra, including wet meadows, springs, cottonwood, and willow riparian mixed conifer forests and sage steppe. The ranch includes 1.6 miles of East Fort Carson River with mountain meadows that provide habitat for fish and wildlife in the High Sierra along an elevational gradient ranging from 5,400 feet to 7,700 feet. The property contains 7 miles of tributary creeks to the east Fort Carson and is comprised of irrigated wet meadow pastures used for seasonal cattle grazing. During the 2021 Tamarack Fire, which burned 69,000 acres, the Park Ranch property played an important role in buffering the community from fire impacts. Continued management of wet meadows by the county will play a vital role in reducing the risk of future catastrophic wildfires. Adjacent to the Humboldt-Toyab National Forest, Bureau of Land Management, and Alpine County Public Lands, the property links wildlife migration corridors for multiple Sierra species, including mule deer, the western bumblebee, monarch butterfly, bald eagle, pollinator, Sierra red fox, beaver, bobcat, black bear, coyote, and mountain lion. The East Fort Carson and its tributaries provide water quality and water quantity, creating excellent habitat for native fish, including the federally threatened Lahontan cutthroat trout. The ranch also provides important habitat for the interstate Carson mule deer herd. Alpine County will be the long-term owner and steward of the property. This acquisition will provide an expansion of public access between the Forest Service managed campground and adjacent Hangman's Bridge, a popular area for rafters to launch into the river. The meadow terraces within the property provide expansive views of the Ebbets Pass National Scenic Byway through the ranch. The property also complements the Towns to Trails plan, which plans to connect Eastern Sierra communities through hiking trails. The East Fork Carson through the ranch is open year-round for fishing. The county is planning to include year-round non-consumptive public access and recreational opportunities, which include birdwatching, fishing, hunting, boating, hiking in spring and autumn, and cross-country skiing and snowshoeing in the winter of the property. Specific public access details and limitations will be further described in the adaptive management plan, which is in progress and being prepared by Alpine County and CDFW. The Department of General Services approved the fair market value of the property at $8 million. Staff recommend that WCB approve this project as proposed. With us today is Alpine County Executive Officer Sam Booth, Clint Celio, Alpine County Wildfire Projects Coordinators, and Western Rivers Conservancy Project Manager Susanna Danner, who I'd like to invite up here and say a few words about the project and also assist with any questions that y'all may have. Thank you.
Thank you and good morning, board. Sam Booth, County Executive Officer with Alpine County. Here this morning to convey my utmost gratitude to the board for consideration of funding for this project. On behalf of the Alpine County Board of Supervisors, our staff, and the residents of the town of Markleeville and Alpine County as a whole. We are extremely excited about this project. Excuse me, we've been working for over 2 years with Western Rivers Conservancy and the landowner on this project towards being here today for your consideration. I'll let Susanna and Clint Celio speak more to the wildlife habitat and the wildfire preservation and protection that the property serves as. Additionally, I believe the county is very excited about the opportunities that Michael spoke about for public access and recreation, hunting and fishing, which are all very important to Alpine County residents and the over 700,000 visitors that we receive to Alpine County for recreational purposes each year. The property surrounds the town of Markleeville, but we think the preservation of the property fits in very well with the National Forest and BLM properties adjacent to it, as well as providing a linkage between the Grover Hot Springs State Park on the west side of Markleeville to the town of Markleeville and the East Fork of the Carson River to the east, as well as the Markleeville campground on National Forest Service property. Again, the recreational opportunities there are very exciting. In my past role, I was Community Development Director and Public Works Director when we started this project. As CEO of Alpine County, I can tell you that this will receive our utmost attention, is near and dear to my heart, of course. And again, just wanted to relay my excitement and gratitude for your consideration today.
Thank you.
Hi, Clint Celio, Alpine County Wildfire Projects Coordinator. As a lifelong resident of Alpine County, I can't tell you how thrilled I am to have this opportunity. This is not something I would have ever thought we would be considering, and certainly not an opportunity that myself or the other residents take lightly. We really appreciate the fact that this is an opportunity in front of us, and we look forward to being stewards of this wonderful open space around the town of Markleeville and in the heart of Alpine County. Specific to questions regarding management plans and monitoring and that sort of thing, Western Rivers Conservancy has already drafted a management plan that we intend to look at and use as a springboard for developing the final management plan. As well, the Alpine Watershed Group and Alpine County have been participating in the Sierra Nevada Conservancy Regional Forest and Fire Capacity Program. That includes a monitoring workshop component that we have just completed. So staff attended those workshops and has been developing a monitoring plan for all of our public lands and whatnot, fuel treatment projects in Alpine County, of which this will fall under. We expect to be able to expand this monitoring plan to include other metrics relative to recreation, wildlife, and whatnot. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Susanna Danner. I'm a project manager with Western Rivers Conservancy and just wanted to pass along my appreciation to the board for considering us for this project. It's not every day that Western Rivers Conservancy gets to work on a project that benefits so many elements of our community. The citizens of Alpine County who want to recreate on their public lands through fishing, hunting, bird watching, rafting, dog walking, and really important wildlife habitat. So this is part of the Carson Mule Deer Herd Corridor, and it also provides habitat for Lahontan cutthroat trout, as well as many other native species of fish and other maybe less famous species like western bumblebee and monarch butterfly and rubber boa. We also are very grateful that the citizens of Alpine County have agreed to pursue this project that we hope will provide wildfire resilience in the event of future catastrophic wildfires. As Clint and Sam mentioned, this property provided an important buffer during the Tamarack fire, and though we obviously hope no such fire ever occurs in the future, if one does, we hope this property will help to protect the town and the residents. And finally, the scenic backdrop of this property is beautiful, an area for bicycling and hiking. The Death Ride runs right through the property, and people raft from Hangman's Bridge all the way across the state border into Nevada. So we hope it will end up being a beloved public asset that will drive tourism to beautiful Alpine County, as well as protecting wildlife habitat and providing wildfire resilience. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all for being here. All right. Any questions or comments? Yes, Karen.
Yeah, I have a question. So the current use is as grazing land and is it timber production as well, or just grazing? Just timber, just grazing. Okay.
The current use is grazing. There is no timber production. There is some forested lands that will need some forest management, but there's no active timber production on it.
And so, and then you will be continuing grazing presumably for the wildfire benefits. And are you needing to change the grazing pattern, or is it an appropriate level?
Absolutely, we'll continue grazing, and at present, there's no need to change the grazing pattern. The meadow is in wonderful shape. The grazing management on it with the current rancher who's been on it for decades now, probably. Is wonderful, and we intend to continue that type of operation, which includes maintenance of the ditches, fences, and all that sort of thing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, don't see any. Let's move to public comment. If anyone in the room wishes to comment on this item, please make your way to the front, and online, if you could put your hands up so we can get you in the queue. Not seeing any folks in the room. Online, do we have any hands?
There are no raised hands.
Okay, we'll close public comment, bring it back up to the board. It sounds like an amazing project. Saw all the support from local folks, elected officials. You all are here. Just wonderful project. I'll entertain a motion if anyone is willing to do that.
I'll move the project. It's really amazing. I think it's just such an asset for the county, and I look forward to seeing it myself someday.
Yeah.
I'll second.
Member Gear,
Aye.
Member Taramini,
Aye.
Tommy,
Aye.
Member Pavle,
Aye.
Member Sklar,
Aye.
Member Thomas,
Aye.
motion passes.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Please come visit.
I've been there. It's amazing. Very exciting. Okay, moving on to Sunset Weir Fish Passage Project. When I briefed the board, I told them this project was like the white whale of a lot of fish people. It's like decades in the making, so it's very exciting. Please, James Croft.
Thank you.
This proposal is to consider the allocation for a grant to the California Department of Water Resources for a cooperative project with the Sutter Extension Water District and the California Department of Fish and Wildlife to construct a fish passage project on the Feather River near Live Oak in Sutter County. My second slide begins with an apology. I'm sorry I had a typo in the budget table that ended up in your full agenda. I promise I can do math, and I can demonstrate that here with a corrected non-WCB funds column. So this table correctly details the non-WCB funds and totals across both WCB and non-WCB funds. Apologize for that error. Sunset Pumps is managed by the Sutter Extension Water District and diverts water from the Feather River for water users across a service area of approximately 25,000 acres of agricultural land, which is primarily in rice growing. Facilitating water diversion at this location is Sunset Weir, which is a 10-foot tall rock weir that spans the Feather River to create an impoundment for the pumping station. The weir's impoundment creates a backwater that extends 6 miles upstream and drowns river channel features such as riffles and gravel beds. This results in creating habitat more closely resembling a lake than a diverse river ecosystem. The weir also blocks downstream flux of riverbed sediment, which leads to degraded habitat downstream. The weir is a barrier that impedes adult salmonid passage and access to approximately 28.5 miles of spawning and rearing habitat between the weir and the Feather River Fish Barrier Dam within the city of Oroville. The impediment is flow dependent, with fish passage becoming increasingly difficult or impossible at lower flows, which is a common condition during California's prolonged droughts. Most of the available high-quality spawning habitat within the Feather River for Chinook salmon and steelhead occurs upstream of the Sunset Weir. Sunset Weir also impedes adult southern distinct population segment green sturgeon migration to the only confirmed spawning location in the Feather River. Between Sunset Weir and the Pacific Ocean, there are no blockages to pit passage for fish moving within the Sacramento and Feather River systems. Providing enhanced or unimpeded fish passage at Sunset Weir has been explicitly called out as a fisheries management priority and recovery plan action for steelhead, Chinook salmon, and green sturgeon by the CVPIA Science Integration Team and the National Marine Fisheries Service. This project has two co-equal goals: to accommodate passage of migratory fish species at Sunset Weir and to preserve the overall water delivery system stability and reliability to deliver water to Sutter Extension Water District users. This will be accomplished through 5 specific actions: removing Sunset Weir and restoring the natural channel gradient and sediment transport continuity, filling the downstream scour pool using on-site weir materials and capped with spawning grade gravel to create suitable spawning substrate, installing 5 cone-shaped fish screens at the Sunset Pumps intake to meet modern fish protection standards, constructing a new wet well and replacing outdated pump infrastructure within the pump station, and finally, stabilizing the left bank, which in all 3 of these pictures is on the opposite side of where the picture is being taken from, with vegetated rock slope protection to address erosion caused by a partial weir failure during the 2019 flood. This will improve channel morphology to support long-term ecosystem function and resilience. Some outcome and benefits. This picture kind of strikes me. There's 2 things that strike me about this picture. Just the scale of what we're trying to accomplish. This is a massive weir. You look at it on a map and it looks just like a dot on a map, but that you get out there and it's pretty breathtaking, to be honest, how someone constructed this massive boulder-shaped weir across the entire river. The other thing that I wanted to point out as far as scale, 28.5 miles of the Feather River will be open to spawning and rearing habitat. When I first saw that in the application, I thought it was a typo, and then that point was moved to the right too far, and then we're getting, a little less than 3 miles. But no, that's correct. 28.5 miles. It's really rare for fish passage projects here in the state for us to get that much of mileage of stream available for fish migration. This project would eliminate the only migratory barrier between the Pacific Ocean and the Feather River Fish Barrier Dam, which is in the city of Oroville. It will restore 6 miles of impounded lacustrine or lake habitat to dynamic rivering conditions suitable for spawning and rearing habitat upstream of the pump station, Project will improve survival and reproductive success for Central Valley Spring Run and Fall Run Chinook salmon, Central Valley Steelhead, and Southern Distinct Population Segment Green Sturgeon, as well as improving recreation as full upstream and downstream navigability of the river will be restored, which will allow boating and fishing access. Staff recommends that the Wildlife Conservation Board approve this project as proposed. Here today to answer any questions you may have from the California Department of Water Resources, Rachel Belanti, Project Manager, and Charlotte Biggs, Assistant Deputy Director of the Natural Infrastructure and Ecosystem Resilience, And a short statement is been prepared by Steve Rothert, Manager, Division of Multi-Benefit Initiatives, and Lynn Phillips, General Manager of the Sutter Extension Water District. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you, James. Thank you, Chair Nagami and board members for the opportunity to talk with you about this important project. James did a great job describing the benefits of this project. And I would say to Dr. Norris's reference to this as a white whale, unfortunately, that ends in tragedy, right? And the whale swims off. And I'm trying to think of another literary example, maybe Old Man in the Sea, where he catches the fish. So hopefully that's the ending that we get here. But just to highlight that this is a really important project, and it has been on the top of our collective priority lists for removal for decades. I started working in rivers in 2000 here in California, and it was on removal lists back then. So here we are 6 years later, and we're getting close. With your support, we can start deconstruction of this project and replacement of the pumps in the summer of 2027. And I think it's just important to underscore the state of the salmon in these times of changing climate, and recognizing, as James pointed out, the increase of access to habitat for sturgeon, for spring run Chinook salmon, for steelhead, but also for fall run, which has really traditionally been the backbone of the commercial salmon fishery in California, and the one species we can always count on. But as you know, in the early 2020s, the Pacific Fisheries Management Council started what ended up being an unprecedented 3-year closure of the commercial fishery, which was only lifted a few months ago. And so we can't take even fall run for granted anymore. Even with the support of all the hatcheries, the populations declined to the point where the PFMC stopped harvest of the salmon. So with climate change and the other pressures that we're seeing on the salmon, we need to do everything we can to help them. And this is a really important project that would really remove the last real barrier on the Feather River between the Pacific and Oroville, as James has said. Planning for this project started in earnest about 10 years ago when DWR and NIMS and Fish and Wildlife Service and DFW came together with the Sutter Extension Water District to start identifying and selecting alternatives. It was a unanimous selection to go with this project that will provide the unimpeded passage and continue the service to the district's nearly 20,000 acres of irrigated lands. And with that, I would just then turn to Lynn Phillips, the General Manager of Sutter Extension Water District, and thank him and the district for the great partnership that we've established over the last few years, developing this project and working out how to do this. It's really this kind of partnership that allows these important projects to be successful and really help support the recovery of our threatened species. So thank you again for your consideration of this grant, and I'll turn it to Lynn.
Thank you, board, for having the opportunity, giving me the opportunity to be here and to push this project forward. My name is Lynn Phillips. I'm the General Manager of Sutter Extension Water District. I've worked at Sutter Extension since 1988, and I became General Manager in 2006. As Steve said, this has been in the works for literally decades, and in earnest, the project entered real discussions and actually in 2014 when I met with members of CDFW, DWR, U.S. Fish and Wildlife, and multiple NGOs at the CDFW offices in Rancho Cordova. That was in 2014. In 2015, Sutter Extension commissioned and funded a study to determine what process would have to be taken, what modification. It was originally a canal modification project, and we also commissioned and funded a study to determine if the existing pump station would work if we modified the dam in a manner that would allow the safe passage of the green sturgeon and the Chinook salmon. And it was determined that it would not, as currently configured. So we continued in talks and worked on this since, like I said, since 2014. We've worked tirelessly to move this project forward to this point, and we look forward to seeing this project through, and we're proud to have the opportunity to see the river opened up another 28.5 miles to a natural state. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, let's open it up to board members. Any questions?
I'll just maybe speak on behalf of the department, and this has been a long time in coming, this project. It also is one of the actions highlighted in the salmon strategy for our hotter, drier future to remove this weir. Staff at the department are elated. This is going to be a huge project for us to get done. So I also want to thank our water branch and our fisheries staff. They're elated about this project moving forward. So just huge thanks on behalf of the department for getting this done. And we're super supportive, and thanks to everyone here that made it happen.
Yes.
Yeah, one question and one just comment. The question is, who's going to operate and maintain this? I know it's a grant that was given to Department of Water Resources.
She asked who was going to operate and maintain the structure. Yeah.
Sutter Extension Water District.
The structure?
Yes.
So there will be no more structure in the river, but the pump station, Sutter Extension Water District will operate and maintain.
Okay. And then just a comment, I appreciate the person who mentioned climate about this, because the funds, in my opinion, are to adapt to a changing climate to some extent, or a great extent. And it's important probably for everyone to think about that, because greenhouse gas emission reduction fund is primarily for those purposes. I think you could meet that adaptation test, but I think I always like to hear the public see how that money is being spent. And it's a generous grant, great project. I'll be supporting that. But I think it's something that should be mentioned more often. So thank you for the presentation.
Thank you. Any other comments from the board? Okay, let's move to public comment. Anyone in the room, feel free to come down and provide public comment at the podium. And online, please raise your hand and we'll get you in the queue. Not seeing anyone in the room. How about online?
There are no raised hands.
All right, lots of great projects that seem to be going quickly today. Or we are good with that, right? Yeah, exactly. Thank you for the presentations. Thank you for being here. For me personally, like, this is a project that goes back, like you said, decades. And I found the presentations really helpful to sort of catch us up to speed on, for those of us who are only involved at this very end point, to understand how far it goes back. And also, it doesn't pop off the page, but what does 28 miles of fish passage mean? It's like one of the biggest advances in that sense. Like, all that context from the presentations was really helpful for me, and I hope it was for the other board members as well.
I agree. I think when I first read the staff report, I have to say the dollar amount
Dollar
kind of,
amount.
whew. But I understand the value and I think the presentation really embellished that. So thanks for that. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I would just echo all of that and just say that, we've seen what removal of structures like this can do and how quickly it can do it for these critical species. So this is really exciting. Thank you for the work on it.
And on that note, I will move to approve this project.
I'll second.
Val
Department
Val gets it.
Member Gear,
Aye.
Member Terramini,
Aye.
Gami,
Aye.
Member Pavley,
Aye.
Member Sklar.
Aye.
Member Thomas,
Aye.
motion passes.
Congrats.
Thank you. I'd like to give a really quick but heartfelt thank you to Mary and Colin for really going above and beyond for stepping up and helping me with last minute board documentation over the past couple of days. I couldn't have done it without you. Really appreciate
Thanks,
it.
James. Charlotte, we did it. Whew, okay. All right. Exciting. All right. Next up, we have the Park Fire Restoration and Enhancement Project in Butte County. I just want to make one edit. We had a little cut paste problem in our packet, and I just want to note that the local legislators are Senator Megan Dolly and Assemblymember James Gallagher, not Jackie Irwin and Stern. That's my apologies. Please.
That's right. Thank you, Dr. Norris, members of the board. So next up is an item to consider the allocation of a grant to Chico State Enterprises for a restoration project on California State University's Big Chico Creek Ecological Reserve, also known as BSER, in Butte County. The reserve acts as both a living laboratory for university students to engage in experiential learning and a forum for long-term land stewardship, as well as research and working in partnership with the Mechoopda Indian tribe of the Chico Rancheria to facilitate tribal access and the use of traditional ecological knowledge for land stewardship. Over the last 5 years, BSER has become a learning hub for the application of beneficial fire as an ecologically essential management tool, leveraging a long history of cultural and prescribed burning to train over 250 wildland firefighters, 90 of which have obtained jobs in forestry and fire throughout California. Look at there we go. The course of land stewardship on the reserve took a substantial turn on the afternoon of July 24th, 2024, when the park fire ignited. While Butte County had endured several of the state's largest, most destructive, and the single deadliest wildfire to date, this was the first to enter the reserve. Fueled by record-breaking high temperatures, wind, and terrain, the park fire ultimately grew to over 400,000 acres and burnt most of the Big Chico Creek Canyon at high severity. This represents an opportunity to create a restoration project on the site that will take advantage of this time-limited time after a fire, wherein land managers can get into the area and enhance it for ecological benefit. So the project will work to reduce the vegetative regrowth, as you can see in this middle photo, by thinning standing dead wood, and also preparing the area for the reintroduction of beneficial fire. If left untreated, stewarding these heavily fire-affected areas will quickly become infeasible, increasing the chance of high-severity fire within a short return interval, and likely contributing to the conversion to a predominantly grassland system. Treatments will increase site resilience to future fires and encourage biodiversity by favoring oak woodlands. The photo on the left illustrates an area prepared for prescribed fire, and the photo on the far right shows a grassland that has long been stewarded with fire to increase native vegetation and forbs with retained mature oaks on the periphery. Lop and scatter will be conducted on dead standing material and resprouts of evergreen brushy species within the yellow shaded areas on the map. The project will provide treatment data to CAL FIRE's Fire and Resource Assessment Program, also known as FRAP, a multifaceted effort to evaluate the health and risk factors associated with forests and rangelands statewide. FRAP maps and data are used by decision makers before, during, and after wildfire events to inform management actions and policy decisions. Broadcast prescribed and cultural burning in partnership with the Mechoopda tribe of the Chico Rancheria will be implemented on roughly half of the project area shown in red. The project will contribute to a regional effort already in the works, wherein BSER and Mechoopda stewardship crews work together to implement land management, blending Western science and traditional ecological knowledge. This project supports statewide efforts to increase pace and scale of wildfire resilience in the face of high-frequency, high-severity fires. Chico State Enterprises and the BSER staff are uniquely positioned to implement post-fire restoration on an academic reserve, while leveraging research and tribal partnership to determine scalable practices to increase climate resilience. Staff recommends the project as proposed, and here in person to answer questions is BSER Executive Director Eli Goodsell.
Thank you. Do you want to say something?
Okay, Eli's coming up to the mic.
Thank you so much, Jen, and thank you, board, for considering this really important project to us and the ecosystem, also our Mechoopda tribal partners and the students of Chico State. We really view this project as an opportunity. We look at, I used to manage 8,000 acres of pre-wildfire, and then now it's post-wildfire, and really looked at the opportunity that has presented us. Over the last 25 years, the equivalent of 20% of California's land base has burned in wildfire. Some of that's overlapping acres, but if you do the math, it's pretty remarkable. And so one of the opportunities we recognize is what do we do post-wildfire, especially in these vigorously growth, high vegetative areas that are growing back quickly in our Sierra Nevada foothills and Cascade mountain range foothills, those ecosystems. This opportunity allows us to look at past environmental indicators, actually be able to do something we've never done before, which is actually have an opportunity to expand meadows, to create more valley oak woodlands where it's been dominated by interior live oak, to partner with the Mechoopda tribe and the master management plan that we are working with WCB on, to actually start to shift a large ecosystems. And it is directly tied to partnerships that we have, through this department, through the CNRA, but also through CAL FIRE, through FRAP, and a multi-year contract we have with them. Our students, researchers, as well as our K through 12 programs. We've got thousands of students that come out that will be participating in this project. The majority of the budget is not to bring on contractors, it is to have our own staff that are students and the Mechoopda tribal crews working together on this. So to me, it's not only important on this, handful of acres on our 8,000 acre ecological reserve, but we hope to start to continue to write the playbook of what post-fire restoration looks like in these ecosystems in the Sierra Nevada and Cascade foothills. So thank you again for consideration, and I'm available for questions.
Thank you. All right, any questions from the board? All right, let's move to public comment. If anyone in the room would like to speak, yes, come on up. And in the meantime, if you're online and you want to provide comment, please raise your hand and we'll get you in the queue. Please go ahead.
Good morning, Doug Teeter, Butte County Supervisor. This is within my district. Unfortunately, I'm a campfire survivor. Park fire was pretty horrific. The Dixie that preceded it was also an equally bad fire also in my district. We had the North Complex in Supervisor Connolly's district prior. And, unfortunately, a lot of it leads to now brushlands where it was forested. So I wholeheartedly support this. With the restoration and the treatments they propose, I believe the community of Forest Ranch will be better off if another fire starts. So again, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Supervisor, for being here. All right, any other public comment in the room? Not seeing any. How about online? Do we have any comments online?
There are no raised hands.
Okay, we'll bring it back up to the board for questions or discussion or a motion. So,
I move approval. And I would just like to say, I really love the relationship with the university and training up the next generation to work on these really tough issues. So thank you.
I'll second the motion.
Member Gear,
Aye.
Member Termini,
Aye.
Member Nagami,
aye.
Member Pavle,
Aye.
Member Scalar,
Aye.
Member Thomas,
Aye.
motion passes.
Great.
Congratulations.
Okay, moving on to Colby Mountain Recreation Trails. Alyssa Benedetti is going to present. We did get a bunch of late letters of support, so I'm just going to read the organizations for you. Ability First Sports, Chico State Big Chico Creek Ecological Reserve, Chico Beyond Adventure, Sierra Buttes Trail Stewardship, Bidwell Run Club, North State Composite Mountain Bike Club, and then 4 cabin owners, Peter Washington, David Evans, Barbara Mann, and David Richer. And then we have some letters of opposition, a letter that was already in your packet from Kristen Cooper Carter from Durham Park Stables. We put it as a letter of support. It's actually a letter of opposition, as well as 4 cabin owners, Cheryl Campbell Bennett, Gary and Erica Miles, Mo and Jackie Whitchurch, and Katie and Chris Biggie. So a bunch of letters on this. Thank you, Alyssa.
This is to consider the allocation for a grant to Butte County Resource Conservation District for a public access project within the Lassen National Forest near the communities of Jonesville and Butte Meadows. The region was impacted by the Dixie Fire in 2021 and the Park Fire in 2024, which between them burned over 1.3 million acres and severely reduced the quality and availability of recreation on public lands. The project provides a new multi-use trail network that will provide high elevation heat refuge, environmental education and stewardship opportunities, and regional economic benefits. Try this clicker. So the full, here, I'm gonna try and use the pointer for y'all, which unfortunately people online won't be able to see, so I'm sorry. So let me try this. There we go. The full trail network, the full scope of the project is 36 miles and includes 4 trailheads. So far, the project partners have completed the Humboldt Drop Trail, which is primarily mountain biking, the Escape and Lookout Trails, which are multi-use. The hub, this trailhead, the hub and the home trail are actually being considered for funding by the Sierra Nevada Conservancy at their board meeting next week. And then finally, what is proposed for this WCB funding is the Yana Rim Trail, the Humboldt Summit, and this Meadow Loop Trail. So the Humboldt Summit is where this new trail system intersects with the Pacific Crest Trail. It's currently kind of an informal access point, so the project will formalize this trailhead by adding ADA accessible vault toilet, picnic benches, and an ADA accessible overlook area and interpretive signage. Tribal partners and the Chico State Geology Department will provide technical guidance for tribal history and geological information that to be included on this signage. And then I'll go more into the Meadow Trail on this next slide. So this is also going to be called the Watershed Health Classroom Trail. This will serve as a field trip opportunity. And it's a roughly 1 mile loop, which will feature educational signage. And it's located a short walk from the Jonesville Snow Park, which has a large enough parking lot to accommodate school buses. This will be an experiential education opportunity that will allow students to view ongoing restoration projects and learn about the importance of the health of meadows, headwaters, and forests. And the project will also develop an educational curriculum for this that's geared towards 6th graders starting their natural science focus. And finally, the RCD will convene a technical advisory committee representing hikers, trail runners, equestrians, and mountain bikers in order to ensure they continue to receive input and feedback throughout implementation. So that it can ensure this is multi-use for these different user groups. And Thad Walker from Butte County the district manager with Butte County RCD is here, so I'll bring him up in just a moment. And I believe Russell Nickerson, the district ranger from the Lassen National Forest, is on Zoom if you have questions.
Thank you. Come on up. Welcome.
Yeah, as Alyssa said, Thad Walker, District Manager for Butte County Resource Conservation District. I want to thank the WC Board and staff for your public service and consideration of the project. Also, a huge thanks to Alyssa as she took time to learn the project, visit the site as well. So this project was mentioned, is located in the Upper Butte Creek watershed on Lassen National Forest, which supports downstream stronghold of spring run Chinook salmon. Butte County RCD has already partnered with WCB on projects within the upper watershed, funding meadow planing and restoration of Butte Creek House. And through a forest conservation program grant, WCB also supported a 20,000 acre Upper Butte Creek Forest Health Project, which just resulted in a signed NEPA decision that will allow for ongoing forest health, work toward improvement of habitat, meadow restoration, and thinning for community protection. And then so adding the public recreation access component to this landscape creates a holistic landscape level approach to this upper watershed. In short, the Colby Mountain Project overall works to address the need for improved public access to our region, loss of recreation due to wildfire, need for high quality recreation opportunities, and the lack of accessible trails for those with disabilities, also a lack of watershed education opportunities. The project planning was a collaborative effort led by Lassen National Forest in partnership with Butte County RCD, partner organizations, local communities, and individuals. It included an extensive pre-planning public input process over multiple years, along with NEPA and CEQA that also provided input opportunities for public input as well. Chico Velo has an established trails program and will be serving as the maintenance steward for this project. I do serve on the board for Chico Velo and will be volunteering my time to support the maintenance efforts that are needed. We look forward to the opportunity, as Alyssa mentioned, to form a technical advisory committee representing recreational users to help guide the project and development and ongoing needs. I also want to acknowledge that with improvements to public access comes changes that can have impacts on communities and individuals. We'll be working with intent with the Forest Service, local government, search and rescue, local communities to address concerns to ensure all who seek a connection to the land and others have that safe and positive experience. We look forward to the collaboration with Pacific Crest Trail Association towards the formalization of a trailhead at Humboldt Summit. The PCTA have protected, maintained, and advocated for the congressionally designated Pacific Crest Trail since 1977. Establishment of the trailhead at Humboldt Summit will improve recreational experience for users of the PCT, Colby Mountain Trails, and other recreational users. We also look forward to working with tribal partners, Chico State, Eli here with BSER, will also with their previous work on educational guidance for youth will help bring a lot to the project as well. And so we appreciate your consideration and investment in the project. Thank you.
Thank you. Hey, let me turn to board members, see if anyone has questions. Yeah, Karen.
Yeah, I was hoping you could just clarify what the WCB funds are going to be used for. So there's the trailhead.
Correct.
And then there's reference to 26 miles of trails. Is that?
So that's the overall, what is left to be constructed.
Okay.
So in the WCB portion, I think is roughly around 10 miles for the Yana Rim, and then an additional mile for the watershed education trail that is down by the smoke park.
Okay. Thank you, because it seemed remarkably cheap to get 26 miles. Thank you.
All right, any other questions?
Just a question for clarification purposes.
Yeah.
The operation and maintenance of that, does that fall to the RCD or?
So it'll be a shared effort. The RCD will be focused a lot on the forest health side up there with a 20,000 acre NEPA that just got approved. So the maintenance will be more with the Forest Service and then also a local nonprofit, Chico Velo, who has a trail maintenance program that does a lot of work in Bidwell Park and has that capacity.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions? All right, let's move to public comment. If there are any folks in the audience who would like to provide comment, come on down and line up. Thank you. And online, if you would like to speak, please raise your hand and we will get you in the queue. I'll give a little bit of time right now for you to raise your hand, and then I'm going to close the queue. So please raise your hand if you'd like to speak, and we'll get to you when we can. All right, let's close the queue, the online queue, and let's go ahead and start having comments here in the room first. So go ahead. Welcome.
So, good morning, members of the board. My name is Heather Sinsky, and I bring over 30 years of public agency, resource development, and collaborative process expertise to this discussion. I'm also a retired public servant, longtime road cyclist, and an equestrian who rides multi-use trails across the state. This project is problematic on a series of levels. It is imperative that the board assure a process to integrate real and meaningful perspective into project implementation. For years, this project has utilized significant public and some private funding on over 10,000 acres of public land. Yet, it has failed to meet its definition and promise of a true multi-use recreational project. This area has long been used by equestrians. Despite this, more than $1.5 million of public funds intended for a true multi-use project has been spent nearly exclusively on mountain bike trails. The majority of these trails were designed and built in a vacuum, omitting the safety, perspective, and input of equestrians and hikers in particular. A big portion of the funding request before you continues to prioritize mountain bike access. It further excludes other users, ignoring the expert perspective provided to the RCD. Adding a technical advisory committee with a consensus model is a necessary yet minimal step that doesn't solve the underlying issue. Our specific ask is supported by Backcountry Horsemen's Association at all levels, alongside multiple equestrian groups representing at least 1,000 riders and hikers. We ask that the requested grant scope be adjusted to integrate hiker and equestrian needs into the already built trail footprint, in addition to adding the important community perspective. To be clear, we want the Colby Mountain Recreation Project to be successful. That success requires integrating the needs of all users, addressing significant safety concerns, minimizing impacts on the small mountain community where it's located, and ensuring that areas unaffected by wildfires remain viable for everyone. Thank you for your time and the work you're doing, and I'd be happy to answer any questions if you have them.
Thank you very much. Let's get to all the public comments first. Thank you.
Hello again. I just wanted to highlight that this project is taking place on the headwaters of Big Chico Creek that runs through our project area, runs through Mechoopda tribal land, as well as Chico State University, and plays a critical role in our education and our community. We specifically have classes at Chico State where interdisciplinary groups of students follow a drop of water from the headwaters down to the confluence of the Sacramento River. And the access provided, especially with the short 1 mile trail for our K through 12 programs, but also for our college students is critical. And I think another highlight of collaboration and partnership in Butte County. So I just want to throw my support from the Ecological Reserves behind this project.
Thank you. All right, next.
Hello, my name is Colleen Hatfield. I am on the board for the Resource Conservation District. I'm on the board. Also, I'm a emeritus faculty at Chico State. I wanted to speak, first of all, I'd like to thank you guys for the serious consideration of this project. One of the things to point out is that we've already got 10 miles of constructed trails up there, and I encourage all of you to come see them. I have never seen trails so consciously put together with erosion, with the way that it moves through the landscape in a very environmentally impactful, environmentally conscious way, let me say that. I think that's 10 miles, once we expand it out, I think that we will have, as Thad was saying, we'll have a technical advisory committee that will include all of the potential users as well as the community. We're going to reach out to the all of the entities that are going to be involved, including the equestrian groups throughout the region. And I think one of the things to keep in mind is we've got experience building these trails now. And we've got the skills and the techniques that are going to make it environmentally conscious and safe. Also, it's going to help the watershed. I've seen some of the trails that have been put up there by a less formal plan, and the erosion and the impact on the landscape and on the watershed is not, it's not pretty. So I think coming in with a well-designed program that's got accountability, I think is what's important. So I thank you for your time, and I thank you for consideration of this project.
Thank you. Next commenter.
Good morning, board. My name is Katie Simmons. I'm Deputy Chief Administrative Officer for Butte County, here to express the support of the Butte County Board of Supervisors for this project. I won't repeat our fires, but they have been successive and catastrophic in Butte County. That's a big driver for the support of the board for additional investment. Our board did contribute about $1 million in ARPA funds for the build out, the initial build out of this project, and would like to see this additional investment for the restoration of recreation, really, and trust in our environment. Thank you.
Thank you. Next commenter, welcome.
My name is Kristen Cooper, and I'm the one that wrote the rather extensive letter before you. On top of being an equestrian and cyclist, I'm also a professional grant writer. I have a firm of about 58 people. It's a national firm with about $2.5 billion worth of funding acquired by our associates. And we are also Department of Justice expert witnesses on a number of fraud cases. So you'll have to forgive my extensive comments, but I'm rather specific in what we're going to be asking for. I'm going to highlight for you a couple of things that I think are really important to understand. The investment that's been made to date has funded a portion of this trail system. And that trail system funded to date has been labeled multi-use. But when you're on that trail system, the trail system that has been designed is actually for mountain bikes. And that was by design, because Section 5 of the bid book that was instructed to the contractor to build them was with mountain bikes as the designated use. So that means anybody who goes up onto these trails, whether it's a hiker with their child or us with a pack string of riders, when we're going up those trails on the multi-use trails and there are cyclists coming down, what we find at this point, because I've been on these trails now, are blind corners, no sight triangles, no equestrian or pedestrian pullouts, and class 4 jump features. What we're asking is that you hold on the investment of further trail development, Yana in particular, and let's go in and fix the existing system so that it is safe for everybody to use, because right now it's not. On top of that, when you're in this area, there is no cell service in this area. So there is no ability to call for assistance when somebody gets hurt. Recently, there was an accident up there. It took 2 helicopters to extract the young man on his mountain bike off that mountain. So this is a serious concern for everybody, is to look at those, look at the what's going on. The other thing, just one other thing, the TAC needs to be seated by the equestrian groups that were mentioned, Backcountry Horsemen, Chico Equestrian Association, Paradise Horsemen's Association, and not by the applicant. We have a vested interest. We have memberships behind us. Gold Country Trails that signed on to my letter, 600 members. Those are the organizations that should be seating that TAC in the seats. And I ask for that respectfully. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome back, Supervisor.
Yeah, I've been a supervisor for 14 years, and anytime there's change at my level, it's always people that are pro and against. So I appreciate your time. So designated use, the Forest Service has like the ways to design trails, and they have a whole system of what the requirements for a hiking trail, biking trail, OHV trail, horse trail. And so they require in their process that you pick one, and it's usually the one that requires the most width or the most height. And so I think there's misrepresentation of what that designated use was. Mountain bikes and horses, when you look at their trail matrix, they're pretty similar. Horses require an additional height. So it wasn't like they just focused on mountain bikes in the design. 14 years ago, well, more, 20 years ago, I was part of the process of the travel management for OHVs in the National Forest. And what really hurt us in the Lassen and Plumas National Forest is they were open to cross-country travel, similar to how horses, bikers, hikers are today. So there's very few designated trails in the Lassen or the Plumas National Forest. I went back as a supervisor to lobby in DC. I asked to see the Forest Service at the national level. I said, how come we don't have trails in Lassen and Plumas like the Tahoe? Their answer was, those are poor forests. So as you can imagine, we have to fight for every opportunity for funding to get designated trails, because you never know in the future whether that cross-country travel for horses, hikers, mountain bikes will be taken away like it was for OHV. It's just the way it is. And in the designated trails that pre-existed travel management, a lot of them remained. Lassen, very few OHV designated trails, very few that aren't roads. And to me, it's pretty sad. Multi-use, shared use. Multi-use for 3 categories of hike, bike, and horse is a state thing with Cal Parks. Forest Service does not have a multi-use shared use model. Some older horse guides mention multi-use shared use, but however, and I'm sorry, I'm over, you can cut me off at any time. So the Forest Service, the term multi-use really isn't used. And so trail systems are multi-use. Individual trails could be specific use, whether it's 2, 3, or more. Lastly, economic benefit. The community has 3 restaurants, one's closed. It's on the brink of dying. Maybe they're just barely supported by the locals. And I'm sorry, I wanted to say one more thing. 2 of the people that were in opposition reached out to my office on like safety issues that was such mentioned about the helicopters, the person getting injured. I called the sheriff and mentioned that, hey, this is heads up, that this is an issue with the citizens. Sheriff and I have gone to the communities to have public meetings, and we'll be doing that again. The sheriff calls the shots on what he considers, safety or first responder issues. So I would, if you have questions about that, and, if that's what's compromising your decision, I would say, we need to talk to the sheriff before we start listening to the general public on what real safety concerns and the plans are in Butte County. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, let's move to anyone else in the room? Not seeing anyone. Okay, let's move to, is there anyone online who wishes to speak on this item?
We have 2 raised hands.
Great.
Miles, you should be able to unmute yourself.
Okay, I think, did that work? Yes. My name is Erica Miles, and I wanted to share with you guys some of my concerns. As a Jonesville cabin owner, we have owned our cabin there for 6 years, and we were actually on the meadow where the helicopters landed. So they landed essentially in my backyard where my children play. If I were in need of that, I would certainly hope that a helicopter could land wherever was safest for me to get the services I needed. And so I just think as we look at these proposals and we say that we've addressed public safety and accessibility, yes, Butte Meadows has a helicopter landing pad. Why is that not being used? Because it's not the closest, best access point for these trails. I think in general, we just need to look at the accessibility of these trails. We need to look at the infrastructure around them. Our community does not have the infrastructure built, particularly between Cherry Hill and the Colby Mountain turnoff, to support this kind of traffic that it's bringing. Last weekend alone, there were hundreds of bikers on a 1-lane road. Sometimes the bikers were coming down the road, they go in the middle of the road, and unfortunately, It's not safe when you're going around turns that are one lane and the bikers coming head on, and most of them are downhill at excessive speeds. So I would really encourage the committee to look at the safety issues that we're addressing. The Resource Conservation District, include the stakeholders. The Jonesville community cabin owners is not included on that, having a seat at that table. I also, to Supervisor Teeter's comments about the community and public meetings, we have not had the opportunity to meet with the sheriff or the supervisor. I think that's in their plans after we've addressed or we've voiced these concerns, but I think it's something we should look at before we start providing more funding for this. The emergency access, the infrastructure, the roads they're not 2-lane roads, and they do not support two-way traffic. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Next commenter.
Yeah, Russell, you should be able to unmute yourself.
Yes, good afternoon, WCB board. I appreciate you guys allowing us to present our project to you. My name is Russell Nickerson. I'm the district ranger here on the Almonor Ranger District of the Alaska National Forest, who's been working with the Butte County RCD on this NEPA process and project implementation now. As Thad pointed out, and some of the public, right, we're in this in between stages of building and improving infrastructure out there. And the Jonesville Snowmobile Park we're talking about was designed for snowmobile park. And we're taking steps through multiple measures to improve that parking area to the adapted changes that have happened over the years since it was first built. Just supporting the process of the community engagement getting in my position. I've been here 8 years now at this position on the district, and have not been reached out to by a lot of the previous recreationists in the area. And so through this process, we're learning some of that, and we're adapting some of that. Some of these trails that we're talking about now with the WCB board is for the educational purposes, are focused on more use for hiking and some of those pieces, like we talked about with the being near the Pacific Crest Trail, working on trailheads like that to kind of delineate some of the uses that are in those areas and help reduce some of those conflicts that can be created when you put trail systems in place. All of these are, the whole project as a whole is intended for multiple uses out there. There are some areas that we talk through and design specific for certain activities just based on the type of recreation that happens. And we're working through those pieces. So I'm in full support of Butte County RCD and working with the Butte County supervisor on talking with the public and working through some of the challenges that are being brought up through talking about the TAC. We would be in full support of all of that, and just appreciate the time to talk with you and present to you and your previous support on other projects on the Alaska National Forest.
Thank you so much. Anyone else? That was it for the queue, right? Okay, we're going to close public comment and bring it back up to the board for any questions and discussion.
I have a question, maybe for staff.
Yeah.
I hear the concerns of safety and they're heartfelt. But to what extent was safety taken into consideration as you crafted this project?
Happy to address that point. And yeah, it is correct. We want to work with the community, address those issues. We did have extensive public outreach, public meetings. There were a number of Brown Act meetings to the Forest Advisory Committee. This plan was also included in the Butte County Trails Plan as well. as we were bringing that plan into fruition in terms of before we even developed those, we reached out to Butte County Search and Rescue, who is a volunteer organization that services search and rescue for the entire county, actually authorized through the sheriff's office. So we worked extensively with them on a plan that if someone does have an accident or needs assistance, so there's various rescue points identified along the trail, roughly every 2 miles of the existing trail. So that if someone does have an issue, there was a mention of cell phone service in that area, but a lot of folks now recreating in those types of areas are carrying inReach or GPS devices, or even cell phones now have that ability in a sense. So we worked extensively with them. They did multiple exercises up there to simulate and practice extractions, both on foot and with a helicopter, essentially. However, there was in this type of world, this is also with Tehama County Search and Rescue as well, and Tehama County, as well as CAL FIRE jurisdiction up there. So the incident that was referenced was due to some communication errors between mutual aid. So the wrong CAL FIRE station got dispatched. In reality, it should have been Butte County Search and Rescue, is who's covering that area in a sense. So just like with that and a new recreation resource, there are things that we need to have adaptive management on and continue to work with the community, continue to work with the user groups to address. But yeah, there was an extensive effort towards the safety for that trail system.
And will you continue to address the safety issues in the TAC?
Yeah, that's correct. A lot of that too, we're still working towards signage. So getting input from especially the equestrian community on safety signage related to their experience, as well as, anyone out there recreating, that they're able to have a safe experience and understand the etiquette and rules of the trail as well.
And what about the traffic issues a commenter brought up of, the trail attracting more folks there? Is that something else that can be worked out?
Yeah,
through the TAC?
absolutely. We're hoping with development of this too, right now, there's a handful of trails that have been developed. So all the use is kind of concentrating in 1 or 2 areas. So that's where we're excited about expanding Humboldt Summit, going in front of the Sierra Nevada Conservancy Board next week, that would add an additional trail connector. So as we build the system out, that'll help spread use out. But it has been, a lot of folks are excited about the opportunity, and we just haven't had that in our region. And we did have a focus initially on mountain bike, just because that was a big unmet need within our area. So we had trails that were focused towards that. I think the Lassen, Russell may be able to speak to that, but I think there were 2 designated mountain bike trails on the entire Lassen in a sense, but that's not going forward the nature of the project. There'll be different flavors of trail and hopefully provide recreational experiences for all uses.
And the TAC will be inclusive of all stakeholders, including equestrians and everyone who is
Yeah,
commenting.
that is correct. Yeah, we've had meetings with Chico Equestrian. They will have a seat on there. There'll be multiple equestrian seats, Paradise Horseman that Chico Equestrian mentioned, as well as representatives from mountain bikers, also hiking, as well as trail running. And then, of course, with this, we'll be working with tribal partners, Pacific Crest Trail, which does allow equestrian use. So we are excited to bring that access point into the project as well.
Great. And Supervisor, is your office going to help maintain the inclusivity here, making sure the TAC has all walks of life represented?
Of course. I'm actually my main recreation is dirt biking. That's not even included in this. So, frown on that. But when we started seeing the letters from the one individual that spoke, where she had supporters, we've reached out to the Paradise Equestrian. Thad and I met with her. I called the Backcountry Horsemen's Association, spoke to their California. So yeah, I mean, whatever I can do. The one person that was online, I called her and spoke to her yesterday. I wanted to come up and talk about the road real quick. I mean, it depends where you come from. This, to me, I grew up in Paradise. This is a 2-lane unstriped road. It's at least through Butte Meadows and Jonesville. It's controlled by the county. It's their road. So to me, all those issues can get worked out. At least it's controlled by the county. The other roads are controlled by the Forest Service. So it's not like we're on some private road that has questionable maintenance. Dollars, of course, for the county are hard to come from. The one to Humboldt Peak, that is very rough. But, with great grant writers along with us on this, maybe we can get some funds that could restore that road into a better road for getting to that Humboldt Summit park. So again, thank you for your time.
Thank you. Any other questions, discussion, the board? Well, I feel like our job here is to vote up or down on the grant. And this has been a great discussion. I just want to thank everyone for coming out, being here, and expressing your opinion, putting in the comments. That's what this process is all about. And it was really heartening to see that. Willing to sort of entertain more discussion here at the board level if we need to. Go ahead, Tina.
Let's see. Like I said, I understand the concerns that have been raised, but it seems to me that the concerns have been taken care of in terms of it's part of the design. Accidents do occur in the wilderness areas. They just do. Obviously, they need to be reduced as much as possible. But I think that that's exactly what's happened here. And that with the continued coordination through the TAC and through the supervisor's office, which I'm so pleased that you could be here today, I feel confident in moving this project forward. And so I would move the project.
I totally agree and could not have said it better, and I will second.
Member Gear,
Aye.
Member Taramini,
Aye.
Member Nagami,
Aye.
Member Pavle,
Aye.
Member Sklar,
Aye.
Member Thomas. The motion passes.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. We're going to move on. Aaron Heyman is going to present on the Salt Creek Floodplain Restoration Implementation Project.
Thank you, Dr. Norris.
So, board members, if you're okay to push through, we have about 4 more projects. So is that good?
Yep.
All right, let's do it. Hi, Aaron. Go ahead.
Hello. Members of the board, thank you for listening to this presentation, and good afternoon. This proposal is to consider a project on Salt Creek within Trinity County on property owned in part by Trinity County and in part by 2 private landowners. This proposal will allocate $2,959,000 for an implementation grant to the Watershed Research and Training Center to benefit migratory salmonas and other aquatic and riparian species and to improve groundwater conditions. Does this work? Yes. Salt Creek flows into Hayfork Creek near the town of Hayfork, California. And eventually, those waters flow into the Trinity River. The Trinity River and its tributaries support important populations of coho salmon, Chinook salmon, steelhead, and a variety of other native fish. Salt Creek currently supports a small population of steelhead. It has the potential to support a much larger population of steelhead and also to include coho and Chinook, which historically spawned here but don't here, or at least don't in any appreciable numbers. The area has been heavily impacted, which is one of the reasons why those fish do not currently use it. The creek is currently confined by a road that runs close to the creek bed and a bridge at the downstream end of the project. Erosion from high flows are damaging the road, damaging the bridge, and damaging a line of power lines. And eroding material regularly collapses into the creek. The debris, the constrained channel, the simplified channel, all combine to reduce the habitat value of this creek. This project builds on a previous WCB-funded planning project to restore 27 acres of riparian and floodplain habitat, to realign the creek and build in large woody debris and add spawning gravel, and generally increase complexity and also groundwater recharge. That groundwater not only will increase conditions and improve conditions in this creek, but also will benefit other surrounding nearby creeks as well. All the proposed features will encourage Salt Creek to form more natural hydrology, allow the water to flow out across a wider area, allow that water to slow down and percolate down into groundwater, and create high-quality habitat for salmonids. The project will support the California Salmon Strategy actions by designing and implementing components that benefit spawning and rearing needs for migratory coho salmon, Chinook salmon, and steelhead. Staff recommends that the board approve the project as proposed, and in the audience is Josh Smith from the Watershed Research and Training Center to aid in answering questions, and he would like to add a few comments.
Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for your time and consideration today. I'm Josh Smith. I'm the Watershed Stewardship Program Director at the Watershed Center. A few just additions to what Aaron said. One is that this is kind of the largest opportunity for groundwater recharge restoration. Usually those kind of projects, there's so much infrastructure around the areas where you can do a good job of that. This is one of the few places that doesn't have much of that. So we feel like we can get a ton of water in the ground slowly percolating out over the dry summer months. We've been really focusing on a lot of groundwater work ranging from meadow restoration upland to kind of larger floodplain restoration projects. We have a whole series of these projects in the vicinity. Tule Creek right next door. We've had real success with working with ranchers on water transactions, doing tanks and forbearance projects that all kind of contribute to more water being available in this area that we think is really important. There's a ton of native beaver populations in this zone, and we think that if we get rid of some of these physical constraints, the beaver will actually be able to maintain the project really well. They are doing a great job in areas where they have enough space, but the levees and things like that that are causing problems are constraining the stream and making the stream power too strong, so they blow out their dams every year. This project's been developed in partnership with the Yurok Tribe. The Yurok Tribal Fisheries Program has been a primary partner in terms of designing the project, and they will be implementing the project if awarded. We're really excited about that. We'll have tribal member operators running the heavy equipment, and the Tribal Construction Corporation will be kind of overseeing the management on the design or the implementation. And then nearby, we're also working with the Hupa tribe and the Yurok tribe on remote site incubators to add spring Chinook eggs or juveniles to this zone. So this is kind of a newer project that they developed, came to us, and we're focusing on this area as one of the primary areas that we're going to be doing this kind of work. Yeah, thank you so much for your time and consideration. And yeah, if you have any questions, let me know.
Thank you. Any questions from the board? Nope. All right, let's move on to public comment. If anyone in the room wishes to speak on this item, please make your way forward. We'll also take any raised hands in the online queue. Not seeing any commenters in the room. Do we have any raised hands online?
There are no raised hands.
Okay, I'll bring it back up to the board.
Move approval.
Very good.
Member Gear,
Aye.
Member Taramini,
Aye.
Member Nagami,
Aye.
Member Pavle,
Aye.
Member Scalar,
Aye.
Member Thomas. Motion passes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Great project. Thank you.
You always tell them we're getting close to lunch. But these projects are still great, so pay attention. Cannibal Island Restoration, James Croft coming back up. I'm just joking. I know you are, but this one's a great one too.
Good to see you all again. Nice to meet you. Thank you. This proposal is to consider the allocation for a grant to California Trout Incorporated for a cooperative project with the California Department of Fish and Wildlife and the California State Coastal Conservancy to restore 500 acres of tidal marsh on the Cannibal Island unit of the Eel River Wildlife Area, located 16 miles south of the town of Eureka in Humboldt County. Cannibal Island, like much of the Eel River Delta, was historically comprised of estuarine, tidal marsh, and a network of tidal channels. In the late 1800s, the area was diked, drained, and isolated from tidal waters for agricultural use. For decades, the area was used for dairy and cattle ranching, farming for hay, beets, carrots, and other crops. In 1968, the Fish and Game Commission received a portion of Cannibal Island into the now 2,600-acre Eel River Wildlife Area. WCB has been working diligently over the last couple years to finally get the last couple parcels you see here, the Pedrozzini parcels and Hanson parcels that are being closing any day now and added to the Cannibal Island unit and this project. The project area is isolated from natural tidal hydrology by an earthen dike constructed for ag purposes. Culverts with tide gates were installed through the dike to prevent saltwater inflow and allow for drainage of agricultural lands. However, these tide gates and culverts no longer function, and exterior dikes have breached in several locations, resulting in muted tidal exchange and gradual conversion of the low interior lands from freshwater pasture to muted tidal marsh vegetation. This has resulted in relatively poor quality aquatic habitats with poor fish access. The dikes have reduced the frequency of riverine and tidal inundations and consequently negated sediment accumulation throughout the project area. As a result, the interior land elevations have subsided up to 3 feet relative to the exterior land elevations. The failed tide gates, degraded dike system, and subsided land exacerbate vulnerabilities to adjacent agricultural lands and infrastructure from sea level rise and storm events. The project will restore natural tidal hydrology in much of the project area through enhancement of tidal wetlands, channels, and salt marsh ridges to create diverse habitats. Much of the existing dike network within the project area will be reconfigured or removed. A new setback levee will protect remaining agricultural lands at risk of future tidal inundations. Failed water control structures and abandoned buildings will be removed. The project will promote native plant succession by targeted mechanical control of invasive Spartina. These actions will restore full tidal prism to 500 acres, including 226 acres of coastal salt and brackish marsh, approximately 14 acres of subtidal channels and sloughs, and 315 acres of full tidal intertidal channels and mudflats. I know those last 3 numbers added up to more than 500 acres. There's some overlap between those 3 habitat types there. The restoration of these processes and habitats will support native fish, invertebrates, wildlife, and plant species while enabling marsh elevations to keep pace with sea level rise. Just a list of some expected outcomes from this project. Biodiversity protection. The project will enhance native plant biodiversity through restoring natural tidal marsh hydrology. Non-native plant communities will be controlled using mechanical methods only, and the project will promote expansion of native plants. Sorry about that. Project will expand critically important habitat for several state and federal listed species, such as coho and Chinook salmon, steelhead trout, longfin smelt, and tidewater goby. Project will enhance fish passage for salmonids and provide critically important habitat for overwintering and seasonally migrating shorebirds and waterfowl along the Pacific Flyway. While this project doesn't specifically have, this phase of the project does not specifically have new public access improvements, it will create a foundation for future public access improvements by removing abandoned buildings and constructing new levees that will make this, the whole area safe for the public to actually access. Project implementation will take place in collaboration with the Wiyot tribe to enhance all living cultural resources within the estuary, including species of particular cultural importance, such as salmon, smelt, and a variety of bird and plant species. Staff recommends that the Wildlife Conservation Board approve this project as proposed. Here today to answer any questions you may have is Christine Davis, North Coast Regional Manager from California Trout Incorporated. Thank you.
Thank you. Would you like to provide some comments or? No, she doesn't need to. Okay, great. Any questions from the board?
I just have a comment, which is it's really great to see this project and building off the other restoration activities like Ocean Ranch and Eel River Preserves. You see that amount of activity in the lower eel is really great. And so I thank you for your work on that. It's exciting to see.
Future board meeting on the North Coast, maybe?
For sure.
Absolutely.
At Cannibal Island in a tent.
All right. Any other questions, comments? All right, let's move to public comment. Anyone in the room wish to speak on this item, come on up to the front, and online, go ahead and raise your hand. Not seeing anyone in the room. Do we have any raised hands online?
There are no raised hands.
Okay, thank you. I'll bring it back up to the board.
Like to move approval?
I'll second. Karen.
Member Gear,
Aye.
Member Taramini,
Aye.
Member Nagami,
Aye.
Member Pavle,
Aye.
Member Scholar,
Aye.
Member Thomas. The motion passes.
Thank you.
Awesome. It's an exciting project. Congratulations. Okay, Jen Stanfield is coming back up to talk about the Fieldbrook Valley Redwood Restoration Project. Hi, Jen.
Thank you. Okay, so next up is an item to consider the allocation of a grant to the Pacific Forest Trust for a restoration project in Humboldt County. There we go. Okay. Pacific Forest Trust, also known as PFT, stewards over 2,000 acres of privately conserved timberlands known as the Van Eck Forest. They manage the landscape to enhance wildlife habitat, protect water supplies, and increase the forest's capacity to sequester carbon. Prior to the property being conserved, much of the area was logged and some sites cleared to create pastures. Current forest stands are comprised primarily of second and third growth redwood, with Sitka spruce occupying the fallow pastures. Young forests such as this one lack the complex structures found in old growth stands, and fire exclusion has contributed to increased tree density and fuel load. The project site hosts a myriad of species that rely upon redwood forests, including coho salmon, northern spotted owl, Pacific fisher, and many more. The area is mapped as a significant climate refugia in CDFW's Areas of Conservation Emphasis mapping tool. PFT has managed the Van Eck Forest for increased biodiversity and resilience for over 20 years, enabling the return of beneficial fire to the property. In addition to decades of stewardship, the Fieldbrook Valley Redwood Restoration Project leverages lessons learned and partnerships forged by PFT staff during WCB's 2023 Mount Shasta Headwaters Forest Grant in neighboring Siskiyou County. Local tribal fire practitioners will be invited to participate in prescribed burning. PFT has been in conversation with the nearby Blue Lake Rancheria Fire Department to facilitate their participation and the inclusion of cultural burning techniques. This will support the growth of tribal fire capacity and enable indigenous fire stewardship practices that have historically maintained redwood forests in resilient biodiverse conditions. Treatment activities include forest thinning within dense fire-susceptible Sitka spruce stands and the creation of gaps suitable for redwood reforestation. Redwood seedlings will be planted within these gaps to increase tree diversity, and the entire 2,200 acres will be surveyed for invasive plants, which will be treated with manual and mechanical methods. The project will culminate in the reintroduction of beneficial fire to 500 acres. The application of fire for ecological benefit will enhance habitat for northern spotted owl, which occupies the site, while decreasing the likelihood of habitat loss to high-severity fire. The project will provide significant restoration contributions to conserved land. The Fieldbrook Valley Redwood Restoration will increase fire and climate resilience and improve habitat quality for over 50 special status species on the property. The reintroduction of fire as a management tool in partnership with Indigenous practitioners will increase biodiversity, encourage late seral forest complexity, and support tribal fire capacity building. Staff recommend the project as proposed. And we were hoping to be joined by President and co-founder Lori Wayburn, but she sends her regrets. She's under the weather. So Lori, if you're listening, we wish you a speedy return to health.
Thank you. Any questions from the board?
I had a question, please, just for purpose of clarification, and maybe when I was taking notes on this project. Yes, I was reading this and taking notes earlier on, prior to this meeting. But is CAL FIRE affiliated with this project?
No, it's really Pacific Forest Trust, and they're going to be
the
bringing
grant.
on, they'll be bringing on contracted crews for doing the burning. So CAL FIRE doesn't have a specific nexus with this other than the regular permitting and things that would need to be in order to enable this.
Okay, so it wasn't Prop $4 coming from CAL FIRE that funded this?
No.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions? Nope. All right, any public comments in the room, please come on down, and online, if you could raise your hand, get you in the queue. Not seeing any comments in the room. How about online?
There are no raised hands.
Okay, thank you. Going to close public comment, bring it back up to the board. Another great project. Yeah, Karen.
I just have one comment, which is actually not just on this project, but throughout today's agenda. I've been really happy to see how many projects are involving tribal units, not tribal units, tribes. Because 10 years ago, you wouldn't have seen that in these kinds of projects. And so it's really exciting to see how, collective efforts are really having an impact, and we're seeing tribes so involved and invested in these projects. So thank you for your work on that.
100%, 1000% agree. All right, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move the project.
Second.
Member Gear,
Aye.
Member Termini,
Aye.
Member Nagami,
Aye.
Pavle,
Aye.
Member Sklar,
Aye.
Member Thomas,
Aye.
motion passes.
Thank you.
Good job. Last project is Don Crocker presenting on the wildlife connectivity fencing modification project. And I just want to flag, we don't often get projects in Modoc and Siskiyou County, so I'm really proud to see us around the state and all the way in the far north corner. Go take it away, Don.
Thank you, Jen. This proposal is to consider the allocation for a grant to the Mule Deer Foundation for a cooperative project with CDFW and the United States Forest Service to improve big game habitat connectivity by removing 12 miles of woven wire fencing and modifying 51 miles of existing 4- and 5-strand barbed wire fencing to a wildlife-friendly design in the Modoc National Forest located in Modoc and Siskiyou counties. Here we go. So this map shows the Doublehead Ranger District in the Modoc National Forest. The district is very large. It's over 1.2 million acres, and it's characterized by mountain sagebrush, scattered western juniper, and open rangeland. This area provides important seasonal habitat for mule deer, pronghorn antelope, and elk. Mapping by CDFW indicates it is a critical winter range for ungulates and an important regional connectivity node, with around 55% of the district's area being considered a migration corridor for pronghorn and/or deer. Wildlife was once free to migrate anywhere within the Modoc National Forest, but that changed with the introduction of ranching. For over a century, the region has been used for raising cattle and sheep, and this has left a legacy of over 500 miles of fencing that was originally constructed for livestock management. But now this just fragments key habitat areas and impairs ungulate migrations. So here are some of the fences within the Ranger District. These are either tightly spaced woven wire fencing or 4 or 5 strand barbed wire with suboptimal wire heights. These designs are not compatible with safe passage for animals and create direct impediments to movement. This results in restricted access to seasonal forage and water, which delays migration timing and reduces habitat connectivity. There's also a direct mortality risk with an estimated 1 ungulate fatally entangled per every 2.5 miles of fence. The project you are considering today will remove or modify at least 63 miles of fencing to improve connectivity and reduce harm to wildlife. This will include prioritization of fence segments using telemetry data, removing 12 miles of woven wire fencing, modification of 51 miles of barbed wire fencing to a wildlife-friendly design, and this will be done by replacing the top strand of the barbed wire with smooth wires no higher than 42 inches and replacing the lowest strand of barbed wire with smooth wires no lower than 18 inches. These measurements have been proven to be the right height to allow deer to jump over the fence and antelope to slide under the fence while still excluding cattle. And finally, there will be a robust public engagement component through volunteer events that will account for up to 2 of the 12 miles of fencing the project will remove. Okay, so here's a photo of pronghorn antelope going under a wildlife-friendly fence. A typical barbed wire fence would entangle and or seriously injure them, but a wildlife-friendly fence's lowest strand lacks barbs and is high enough that they are still able to push through without causing injury. And here's a deer going over the wildlife-friendly fence. The top strand is not so high that an adult can't jump across, and it also lacks barbs, which protects any individuals that may not be able to get cleanly over the wire. Making these changes to the highest priority fencing segments within the district has the potential to minimize disruptions of migration patterns and prevent injuries that can weaken and in some cases result in the death of migratory wildlife. Therefore, staff recommends the project be approved as proposed. Before we get to your questions, Zach Kraft from the Mule Deer Foundation would like to address the board. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I'm Zach Kraft. I'm a habitat project manager with the Mule Deer Foundation. I just want to relay the gratitude from the whole organization for you guys just considering this project. Fencing is often one of those overlooked things. You know, when you're talking about connectivity, most of the times you're looking at roadways, putting in overpasses, but these fences, when they compound, it does seriously alter these migration patterns that these animals have historically used. And that's all I've got. Thank you.
Thank you. Any board questions or comments?
Well, just a comment, just that, you know, thank you for that. And thank you for your comment about connectivity. It's something we all think about all the time. It's such a critical feature. And whether we're thinking about 3030, whether we're looking at the overpass that Fran was so important in developing down south that's going to open this year. It's really important. And you're right that we don't always think about things that are less obvious in connectivity. So really appreciate this project.
Thank you. Thanks, Eric. I'll echo that. I've done conservation advocacy for many years and had no idea about wildlife-friendly fencing. It's fascinating. So learned something new today. Thank you for bringing this project to us.
Also, just note from the department, you all are probably well aware of Gray Wolf's return to California, which is both a success story, but also a concern and challenging ongoing issue with ranching, particularly up in this neck of the woods. And so this is one of the many criticisms of the department of making sure that there are ungulate species for wolf to prey upon versus cattle. So we would love to see more projects like this and other projects that restore habitat for ungulate species moving forward. So just hugely supportive and thank you for this project.
Hear, hear. All right. Let's do public comment. Anyone in the room wish to speak to this item? Come on down. Online, we'll open the queue for comment. If you want to raise your hand, we'll get to you. Not seeing anyone in the room. Do we have any raised hands online?
There are no raised hands.
All right, we'll bring it up to back up to the board level for discussion and or a motion.
Move approval.
Second.
Member Gear,
Aye.
Member Termini,
Aye.
Member Nagami,
Aye.
Member Pavle,
Aye.
Member Sklar,
Aye.
Member Thomas. Motion passes.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Good job, Team WCB. All right. One last presentation. And this was promised at the beginning. So Adam Ballard is going to tell you about our project monitoring program. He's been spearheading this for, I don't know how long. How long have you been doing this?
3 or 4 years.
He takes it pretty seriously, which I love about him. So you're standing between us and lunch, no pressure, but we're really excited to hear from you. Thanks.
All right, thank you, Jen, and members of the board. As Jen mentioned, I'm Adam Ballard. I oversee our compliance monitoring programs here at the board. And so today I'm hoping to provide you a brief overview of our monitoring programs and a summary of some of the recent results. So WCB is conducting monitoring for a variety of reasons. Principal among these is evaluating whether the projects that we're funding are being operated, maintained, and used consistent with the terms and purposes of those grant agreements. We want to maintain an active rapport with our grantees and the project landowners long-term, and also to inform program development and management. Our monitoring programs were established and have been maintained and expanded in response to a variety of drivers, including policies adopted by the board, past audit findings, and our strategic plan, among some of the main ones. Up until recently, the programs had two main elements: a compliance monitoring program and conservation easement annual monitoring. There we go. So there's sort of two main components to it: a compliance monitoring program and conservation easement annual monitoring. And I'll get into those here in just a sec. So due to the large number of projects that we've funded over the years and the remoteness of many of them, it's not feasible for staff to get out and monitor all of these projects every year. So through the compliance monitoring, we've set up a scheme where we aim to monitor about 100 projects that are randomly selected across the board's key activities. So you can think about acquisitions, restoration, public access. And we do that as a means of gaining an overall understanding of project compliance. And then consistent with policies this board adopted in the mid-2000s, all of our conservation easement grant agreements include a term requiring the grantees to monitor the easement and ensure that the property is being managed consistent with the terms of the easement and the purposes of our grant. And they submit written reports to the board, which we then review and work forward from there. So over the past year, WCB staff got out and monitored about 97 projects through our compliance monitoring program. The good news about that is 96% of those projects were found to be in good condition, being operated and used consistent with the purposes of grant. There were a couple of instances where there were concerns about the condition and maintenance of infrastructure improvements or habitat enhancements that were documented at 3 restoration projects and 1 public access project. And in all 4 instances, the grantees and the landowners have been working collaboratively with us to address those. Many of them have been addressed, and we're making good progress on the others. You see there, I've got technical violations of the grant terms. We had 16% of the projects that met that requirement, and that's things like lack of signage. So our grant agreements call for the proponents to put signage on acknowledging WCB as a funding partner for the project. And we had 1 instance of a project where offsite mitigation had been implemented on the property without coming to the board for prior review and approval of that action. On the signage, we're working with the folks to get that addressed. About half so far have been rectified. In the mitigation, it turned out after subsequent review that the actions were in fact consistent with purposes of grant. They were additive to the habitat values that were preserved with our grant funding. And so we have ultimately retroactively approved that. So that one's been resolved. With respect to the conservation easement annual monitoring for 2025, the grantees have submitted 98% of the required reports for this past year. Staff have reviewed all of them, and we're working to track down the final 4, I think is what's outstanding at this point to get in. The easement holders / our grantees identified violations of the conservation easements on 6 properties. So that's 4% of the properties that were getting monitored through that effort. Those violations included example of prohibited uses. There were a couple of instances of procedural violations, and a procedural would be something like an action was implemented that didn't get appropriate review and approval by the easement holder. And in similar situation there, we're coordinating with the easement holders and the landowners and making good progress to rectify those violations where they did occur. For the coming year, let's see here. Oh boy. There we go. For the coming year, the compliance monitoring and our conservation easement monitoring programs are going to continue in their current form. We have added a new component of the program, that's fee title on your monitoring. So much like our conservation easements, beginning in 2025, the grant agreements for fee title acquisitions now include a provision requiring the easement or the grantee to monitor the property and submit a written report of findings to the board. So that's going to start coming in this year in 2026. We are also exploring the use of remote monitoring, relying upon readily available aerial imagery as a means of expanding the number of projects that we can evaluate on an annual basis. And finally, we've begun coordinating with our partners like the Department of Fish and Wildlife, Coastal Conservancy, and others to figure out ways to better coordinate across our respective programs so that we're reducing duplicative effort. You can imagine we're all collaboratively funding a lot of projects and the department's running out, we're running out. And so we're trying to figure out ways to sort of dovetail those efforts better share information. And then ultimately, over time, as we continue to get additional experience doing this work, we're envisioning sort of the program being able to evolve in response to information that we're learning, become more effective, become more informative to our respective programs. And so with that, I would like to take a moment to extend our gratitude to the grantees and the landowners that have been assisting us with this process and their continued stewardship of these conserved and restored lands. And I'll wrap it up there and see if you've got any questions.
Thank you so much. Any questions?
Yeah, really just a comment. In talking with Senator Pavlia, I realized that I think one of my first tour of duty here was before anybody else up here was here, except Catherine, who's been here representing the legislature for quite a while. And we've made real progress here. Senator Pavlia reminded me that she was the one who carried the bill to expand this board from just the President of Fish and Game Commission, the head of the Department of Fish and Wildlife, and a member from Finance. Yeah, right. And this is part of that progress too. We handle a lot of money, a lot of responsibility for the taxpayers of California, where they expect it to be spent well and usefully and move these things forward. And the work that you guys have made and the progress you've made in making sure that accountability is there is really important. For all kinds of reasons. On a moral basis, money should be spent with what the voters chose it to be spent for. It should be spent effectively. And if we want to continue to do this work, we need to show to the public that we're doing the thing we said we're going to do and use the money well. So I really appreciate this report today and really appreciate this work. I think the staff has done a great job over the years. I really, I feel really old in saying that I've had an opportunity to watch over quite a long span and the progress in terms of everything that this board does has really improved. Not that it was bad before, but it's gotten better. And that continual improvement really serves the state well and serves conservation well. So thank you all for that.
I just want to thank you for the report, and the results are amazing. So keep it up. Thank you.
Same here. No notes. Awesome. All right. Thank you so much. And we'll move on to public forum, item number 32. Anything that's not on the agenda. Anyone in the room wish to provide comment, feel free to come on up. And anyone online, feel free to raise your hands right now, and we'll put you in the queue. All right, let's close the online queue and we'll welcome you to the podium, sir. Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you. And I really just sincerely want to thank you as a member of the public. I came to do public comment that I'd be first in line, but I sat through the whole event today and I'm grateful for what you do. I mean that very sincerely. My name is Mark Berry. I'm the current president of Save the American River Association. And I just wanted to bring something to the WCB's awareness. The city of Sacramento has a concept plan for an area called Sutter's Landing, the Sutter's Landing project along the American River. It's kind of an access trail, and the WCB has funded about $950,000 for that project. And our request is basically this: if the city comes to the WCB for an extension of the grant or more funding, request that WCB kind of withhold that until the city demonstrates it is consistent with the stated project outcomes, WCB comments, and Parkway stakeholder concerns. There were over 22 letters of opposition to this project, including from Friends of Sutter's Landing, SARA itself, Audubon, and several disability community organizations. There was no public hearing for this, although in May 19th, there was a certified environmental document, which was done just on a consent calendar. And I just want this board to know or understand why this is important to us. The Parkway plan designates every area of the parkway for certain uses and levels of development with an overriding goal of protecting the natural resources while allowing appropriate recreation. Now, under state law, Public Resource Code 5840, all state and local agency actions affecting land use on the parkway must be consistent with the parkway plan, and we consider that to include funding from the WCB. This proposed project lies within the Wood Lake area, which is a protected area, and its intent is only to preserve the natural habitat and have only light recreation. The proposed Sutter's Landing project conflicts with this protected area requirements, installing a concrete staircase down the levee, paved switchback ramps, concrete paths, and a semi-permanent mat. All these are envisioned. These would be okay in developed areas, but this is a protected area. And protected areas are intended just for individual family use in small groups. By contrast, this proposal establishes infrastructure to support adjacent city parks, commercial rental concessions, and to attract a high volume of users. And I just wanted to just kind of conclude with the Wood Lake area as a protected area is described as one of the largest continuous natural habitat remnants in the lower American River, with planning goals focused on habitat restoration and lower impact nature observation. So the request really is this probably is going to come forward to the WCB if there's continued funding of the Sutter's Landing project, that it be consistent with the WCB project review concerns, which included avoiding hardened structures, that it be consistent with the American River Parkway Plan feasibility, and that project stakeholder concerns are addressed. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next commenter.
Good afternoon, Board. Thank you very much for your time today. And I'm speaking on the same subject that Mr. Mark Berry just addressed in his comments as president of Save the American River Association. My name is Betsy Weiland, and I am the Friends of Sutter's Landing volunteer coordinator for stewardship at Sutter's Landing in the American River Parkway. It should greatly concern the board that $950,000 of Lower American River Conservancy program funds is being spent on a proposed project that has no known parkway stakeholder support, much less widespread support from the disability community. The city has had little meaningful collaboration with the Friends of Sutter's Landing Select Committee, who has developed a feasible and cost-effective alternative. In fact, in an effort to deny parkway stakeholders and the disability community a full-throated opportunity to express concerns and alternatives, the City Council certified the environmental document and approved the project on their May 19th consent calendar. Friends of Sutter's Landing, as I said, supports Sarah's comments. If the city asks the board for a grant extension or more funds, we ask the board to deny the request unless the city commits to going back to the drawing board and work with the stakeholders they committed to in a presentation to you, the board, in their request for grant approval to working with stakeholders. Thank you. Thank you for your time today. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks for being here. All right. Anyone else in the room? Public comment. How about online?
There are no raised hands.
Okay. I'm going to close public comment for the public forum. And I think that brings us to adjourning the meeting. Board members, if you could hang around, we want to take a picture with Mary. So thanks everyone for being here. Meeting adjourned.